A girl, born with a century's worth of cultivated inner strength, was reborn as the daughter of the demonic sect. Her father was not only the heavenly demon, the sworn enemy of the martial arts world, but even her childhood sweetheart, had become a puppet of slaughter, ready to eliminate her at any moment. Indeed, the girl was reborn into a character from a novel she'd read in her past life. Her name was Tian Lihua. She was this world's ultimate villainess. In her previous life, she was an orphan abused to death by the orphanage director. Finally, she had the chance to be born into a wealthy family, but she was fated to die young. Just a 100-day-old infant, after confirming she had truly transmigrated. She could only cry loudly, overwhelmed by grief and anger. This displeased the heavenly demon greatly. He glared at the wet nurse, demanding to know why the child wouldn't stop crying. Rueilin inwardly cursed the terrifying aura of the man, but outwardly feigned ignorance. The heavenly demon lowered himself, a chilling smile playing on his lips. As her wet nurse, you claim ignorance? It seems there's no need for you to remain. He reached for his sword, intent on ending Rueilin's life. At that moment, a male voice intervened. For the sake of the house's tranquility, let's do this outside. Lihua cried, even louder. She was clearly the one causing the commotion. Why kill her wet nurse? The kneeling servant girl pleaded desperately. Please allow me to try and soothe the young miss again. The man glanced indifferently at the wet nurse. Finally, he relented. In this life or death moment, Lihua understood. If she continued crying, her villainous father would truly kill Rueilin. Soothed by Rueilin, she gradually quieted. However, the heavenly demon seemed unwilling to let the matter drop, still seemingly intent on executing the wet nurse. This time, Lihua wouldn't stand for it. She clutched Rueilin's hand tightly. The man, noticing the infant's attachment, finally turned and left, sparing Rueilin's life. He warned, there won't be a next time. True to form, the baby didn't cry the next day, but facing the heavenly demon's piercing gaze, she employed a surefire tactic, covered in the baby's drool. The man immediately used his inner energy to dry his face. Looking at her cold and distant father, Tian Lihua resolved to change her fate. So far, the childcare route seemed to be a dead end. Running away wasn't an option either. She'd probably be caught before she even made it 2 meters. So what could she do? Just then, her mother appeared. Could she be her escape route? Though reborn with her consciousness intact, Lihua was born with innate inner strength. Not naturally, but because her mother, Bing and Shue, was a cultivator. She saw her daughter as a tool to solidify her own position, and used her to manipulate the heavenly demon. She began to cruelly mistreat Lihua. Watching Lihua tremble from the cold, Rueilin couldn't bear it. She pleaded with Bing and Shue to stop, but the cold-hearted mother simply chuckled. If she can't even endure this level of cold, how can she be my, Bing and Shue's daughter? Instead of relenting, she intensified the icy chill, causing Lihua to faint. Rueilin, heartbroken, held the ice-cold Lihua in her arms. She should beg Bing and Shue to help revive the young miss. But Bing and Shue would only use her inner energy to save that useless girl for her own purposes. She warned Rueilin not to bother her. While she's in a good mood, Bing and Shue said, you can take her out for some sun. Rueilin could only obey, carrying Lihua outside. The demonic sect members sneered at them. Lihua was already 3 years old, yet she couldn't speak or walk. Everyone assumed she was an idiot. That's why the heavenly demon hadn't visited her once in 2 years. Now, only Rueilin, oblivious to the underlying reality, remained by Lihua's side. But they hadn't expected the useless young miss they mocked to be a genius suffering in silence. After all, inside the child's body resided the soul of an adult. The courtyard basked in bright sunlight, vibrant colors on full display. A captivating fragrance drifted through the air. In the courtyard, the small child and the adult woman apologized to each other, each claiming responsibility for failing to protect the other. The girl, observing Rueilin's worried expression, offered a comforting smile. But Rueilin remained consumed by guilt. Watching the remarkably intelligent young miss, she embraced the girl with emotion. If the cult leader knew the young miss was a genius, he would come to see you every day. The girl shook her head repeatedly. This is a secret, but they both knew that the cold-hearted mother would only escalate her abuse. Tianma, the cult leader feared throughout the martial world, possessed a daughter as precious as a jewel. From that point on, Tianma truly cherished his daughter. Though little Lihua had just reached her first month, she was ordinarily showered with her father's love and affection. Yet, at this moment, in her mother's arms, she was being used as a pawn in a game of vying for favor, while outwardly maintaining the facade of a loving mother. In secret, she treated the girl with cruel harshness. All of this was merely to secure Tianma's adoration. Furthermore, the woman even told Tianma how much their daughter loved her. In front of Tianma, the Empress Dowager bullied the infant, who couldn't speak. And that wasn't all. She invited Tianma to stay for a meal. When he refused, she abruptly dropped the child. Thankfully, the quick-thinking Rueline caught her. Immediately, she took out a small toy to soothe the girl. Li Hua had just stopped crying when the woman snatched the toy away, glaring at the infant with a sinister look. She muttered that the child still had some use, as she could ensure Tianma visited every day. It turned out the girl's mother was the former fiancée of Bei Haiban. By chance, she had conceived Tianma's child. Thus, the two families arranged a marriage. Although there was no love between them, cult leader Tianma visited her daily. But the girl's birth changed everything. The cult leader began doting on his daughter, neglecting his wife. This created a severe imbalance in the woman's heart. If it weren't for the child's usefulness, she would have already gotten rid of her. Rueline, witnessing this, apologized profusely. Seeing her so distraught, the woman told Rueline to deliver the medicinal herbs to her room. Although it was a gift for the child, she naturally intended to use it herself. As Rueline put the baby down to fetch the medicine, Li Hua suddenly began to wail. Rueline rushed back and picked her up, noticing bruises on the infant's body. It was clear the woman was responsible. Rueline was furious but dared not speak out. As the woman left, she said with a smile that she needed to apply some healing balm to Li Hua. Children can be mischievous, but one shouldn't be so heavy-handed. This time I'll let it slide, but there won't be a next time. With that, she departed, ignoring everyone's reactions. Rueline could only hold the young miss and weep silently, apologizing for not protecting her. The girl reached out to comfort Rueline, assuring her it wasn't her fault. It was clearly that woman's doing. She secretly vowed to avenge this injustice one day. After all, she was the daughter of Tianma. The young girl possessed a once-in-a-century talent for martial arts, but her father, being Tianma, feared getting close to her for her own protection. Meanwhile, Li Hua suffered endless abuse at home with a wolf-like mother. Not only did her mother not take her to her father, but she also took pleasure in tormenting her daily. All because, after naming her, her father disappeared with the male protagonist, Yu Yonyan. On this day, the girl was basking in the courtyard sun, trying to thaw from the cold. Rueline offered to weave her a flower crown. Li Hua watched Rueline leave, a silent determination hardening within her. She vowed to defeat Ding Angsu, then use him as a stepping stone to escape the demonic sect. After giving herself a pep talk, she prepared to gather flowers to weave a garland for her wet nurse. Suddenly, the doctor's daughter told her to turn around. It was him, the male protagonist, the one who was destined to kill her. The height difference was too great. She couldn't possibly fight him. Her only option was to try and appease him. She offered him a small flower. Yu Yulian asked, "What is this?" "It's a flower," she replied simply. The boy crouched down, looking at Li Hua. "So you understand me. You can even speak. The rumors said you were a fool who couldn't even walk." The rumors, it seemed, were false. Li Hua had been caught, her disguise blown. She quickly adjusted her expression, feigning simple-mindedness as she chased after a butterfly. Watching Li Hua rise and chase the butterfly, Yu Yulian became even more certain that she wasn't a fool. Li Hua could only continue her charade, pretending not to understand. Feigning a stumble, she crawled to the boy's feet. Suddenly, he grabbed her hand. He felt her icy skin. "Madam seems to visit you often," he remarked. "I hear Bing Inshua's powers have been growing stronger lately." Li Hua flinched. Had he discovered her mother's abuse? Before she could speak, Yu Yulian pulled her into an embrace, using his own potent inner energy to warm her. As warmth returned to her body, Li Hua thought, "They're still young. Surely he won't kill me now." She hoped he wouldn't reveal her secret. But the next moment, Yu Yulian's chilling voice cut through the air. "Welcome to hell." Born with innate inner power, the girl had transmigrated into the body of the demonic sect's young mistress. But escape was always on her mind. Her mother tormented her relentlessly. And now, the vengeful male protagonist had discovered her pretense. He had just issued her an invitation to hell. Li Hua immediately pushed him away. "Haven't you heard of do unto others?" she demanded. Remembering she was supposed to be the young mistress, she unleashed a child's ultimate weapon. She stole his first kiss. Yu Yulian wiped his mouth with his sleeve, a look of disgust on his face. Li Hua's heart skipped a beat. Would he silence her now? In the novel, Li Hua's demise came in adulthood when she tried to drug Yu Yulian. But Yu Yulian, being the protagonist, possessed a cautious and rational mind. He had tolerated the young mistress's antics. It was only when her harassment became unbearable that he finally resorted to killing her. Even then, Li Hua hadn't stolen his first kiss as a child. This is bad, she thought, but Yu Yulian didn't draw his sword. He simply gave her a look of utter loathing. The next day, after her mother had smashed her head against a wall, Li Hua laid a mat on the ground, enjoying the rare warmth of the sun. A moment later, Yu Yulian appeared, blocking the sunlight. After yesterday's probing, Li Hua was certain Yu Yulian wouldn't harm her, at least for now. The male protagonist stared intently, then asked her to extend her arm. Li Hua hesitantly offered her small hand. As their hands clasped, a surge of warmth flowed into her. Enveloped by the warmth, she wondered about his motives. Did he pity her? But he knew about the abuse. Why didn't he say anything to her father? Perhaps, as the protagonist, he was inherently righteous. Perhaps guilt compelled him to help her. Yu Yulian, she began, you don't need to feel so guilty. He abruptly released her hand. I feel nothing of the sort, he snapped, then with a swift movement, leaped away. At this moment, the wet nurse approached, carrying a woven garland. As soon as the young miss placed it on the little girl's head, the child turned around. She felt a strange presence behind her, as if contaminated by something otherworldly. But in the next second, it was gone. Lately, the little girl had felt like someone was watching her. Perhaps she was just being paranoid. She prepared to return to her chambers with her wet nurse. A captivating villain lurked in the shadows. A villain so charismatic, he might even overshadow the protagonist. He was the heavenly demon, the sworn enemy of the martial world. He was also the father of this adorable child. But due to his neglect, the little girl had been abused by her mother for 4 years. What was even more ludicrous, the elders of the Jiaoli clan, who observed the girl daily, had failed to notice the abuse. And the male protagonist, after a close encounter, learned of the girl's mistreatment and was deeply disturbed. After 2 years of secluded cultivation, he could no longer bear the inner turmoil. He informed the heavenly demon about the young miss's abuse. Upon hearing this, the heavenly demon was enraged. He stormed into his daughter's palace. He found Zheng Xiaobin, the girl's mother, drinking and inflicting self-harm. She was using this as an outlet for the loneliness of her husband's constant absence. The little girl trembled in fear. She recalled the cruelty of the orphanage director from her previous life, and the woman's face seemed to merge with her mother's. Despite the wet nurse's desperate attempts to protect the child, the mother yanked the girl away and, with a forceful blow, caused the girl's nose to bleed and triggered a coughing fit. The wet nurse, holding the ailing child, pleaded with Zheng Xiaobin to find a doctor. But the woman dismissed her impatiently, saying the girl would be fine after some sleep and that it would be better if the idiot died. She then called for her maid to clean the room, but the maid didn't respond. With a bang, Bing Inshu, thinking the maid had entered, prepared to scold her. Instead, she was met with the maid's corpse. She screamed, demanding to know who dared touch her servant. In the next moment, she was drenched in a cold sweat. The heavenly demon strode in, his sword gripped tightly. The wet nurse, seeing the burning fury in the heavenly demon's eyes, desperately pleaded that the young miss was in danger and needed treatment. The heavenly demon walked past Bing and Shua, knelt beside his daughter, and touched her cold cheek, lamenting that he had arrived too late. Li Hua, looking into her father's pained eyes, whispered that she was all right. The heavenly demon quickly scooped her into his arms, reassuring her that no one would hurt her again now that he was there. For the first time, the little girl felt the love of a family member and burst into tears. The heavenly demon glanced to the side. So, there's a beast in the house, he murmured. The father she had only seen as an infant loved her after all. Bing and Shua, realizing the gravity of the situation, only now reacted. She stammered, trying to explain that it was all a misunderstanding. She had been caught red-handed abusing her daughter, and the heavenly demon had arrived just in time to save Li Hua. The heavenly demon scoffed. Someone who would harm their own child is nothing but a beast. He refused to listen to her excuses. He ground his heel into her hand. Terrified, Bing and Shua pointed at the wet nurse, claiming, she did it. It was all her. But the heavenly demon wasn't fooled. He wasn't a fool. Seeing her lies failing, Bing and Shua resorted to sarcasm. Is the heavenly demon playing the doting father now? After all, you haven't seen your child in 4 years. But if you're going to play a role, why not start by being a dutiful husband? You can always have more children, but you only have one wife. Just as Bing and Shu thought she had the upper hand, the heavenly demon uttered, "Not for much longer." The words struck her like a blow, and she collapsed to the ground. Their marriage was a political alliance. The Bing clan would never allow him to divorce her. But as the heavenly demon, how could he fear the mere ice palace? He immediately summoned his personal guard. He ordered them to take Bing Inshue's hand and deliver it to the ice palace, declaring their agreement void. Ming Ling drew his sword with a flourish. The woman's screams echoed throughout the demonic palace. Li Hua instinctively held her breath in terror. Seeing this, the heavenly demon gently patted the girl. He then ordered his subordinates to seal the room, forbidding any treatment or food. Bing Yinxue, desperate, disregarded everything else and pleaded with the girl for forgiveness. Li Hua simply turned to her wet nurse, urging her to leave with her. The woman couldn't accept being abandoned. Curses continued to pour from the room. The girl finally abandoned her mother. With a wave of the heavenly demon's hand, the sounds from behind vanished. He gently patted Li Hua, telling her to rest and sleep if she was tired. He then took her to the Poison King. After a thorough examination, the Poison King discovered that the young miss didn't have a single unbruised patch of skin on her body. Moreover, her internal energy was in chaos, and she was on the verge of succumbing to demonic qi. But hadn't sect leader Xiao said the young miss was unharmed? He asked. The heavenly demon, upon hearing this, immediately summoned Yu Yulian. Tian Lihua, daughter of the demonic sect's heavenly demon, had become his daughter in name, but when the heavenly demon learned that his daughter was covered in bruises, his fury was boundless. He immediately ordered his guard to remove Bing Inshue's remaining limbs. At this moment, Yu Yulian approached the girl's bedside. He had assumed the heavenly demon intended to punish him. After all, he was the only one aware of the young Mrs. condition. He had remained silent, causing the girl to remain without her father's help. But the heavenly demon didn't pursue the matter. Instead, he ordered Yu Yulian to use his pure internal energy to save Li Hua. Yu Yulian's heart skipped a beat. How did the sect leader know he cultivated an energy that countered demonic arts? The heavenly demon, seeing Yu Yulian's hesitation, declared that only his internal energy could save the girl. If he agreed to help Li Hua, all past transgressions would be forgiven. After a moment of consideration, Yu Yulian asked the sect leader to open all of the girl's meridians. He also requested the use of palace-cleansing sacred oil, a sacred medicine that could stimulate potential. In the entire Jianghu, only the demonic sect possessed a single bottle. He had intended to use it for his own revenge in the future. But now he owed the little girl on the bed. From now on, they were even. Li Hua, burning with fever and unconscious on the bed, felt a chill. Then, a warm hand stroked her head. When the hand left her forehead, the girl instantly grabbed her father's sleeve, begging him not to leave, tearfully asking for his comfort. But the heavenly demon believed his hands were stained with sin, unworthy to touch his daughter's pure hands. Wasn't this the reason he had kept his distance from Li Hua? But the girl didn't mind. She just wanted her father by her side. Unable to resist her smile, the heavenly demon finally succumbed and drifted off to sleep with Li Hua. A month later, the girl awoke after treatment. However, her eyes had turned blue, and her body was remarkably strong. She not only possessed exceptional observational skills, but also spoke with remarkable clarity. The insignificant cannon fodder who had transmigrated into the book finally gained her father's love. Seeing the young miss awaken, the wet nurse approached with food, expressing concern for her health. As the girl ate, she asked about her mother. The wet nurse, however, began to look around evasively. Li Hua understood. The wicked woman was gone. Although she hated Bing Yinxue, she hadn't wished her dead. Following her mother's arrangements, Li Hua was bathed. Looking at her reflection in the water, she suddenly noticed her eyes had changed color. The next day, now that Li Hua had recovered, her father assigned several new maidservants to her. But these servants were cold and aloof, refusing to engage in conversation. They didn't even react when she spoke of Jingyu. Li Hua ran outside to find her wet nurse, Ruiling. Just as she spotted her, she was startled by a red-faced, heavily perspiring man who appeared behind her. He not only frightened her, but also introduced himself as a passing elderly gentleman. Li Hua instinctively replied, "Please, go slowly," which seemed to irritate the old man. But the next moment, realizing she was a sweet young girl, he softened and offered her a red bead. Li Hua picked up the jewel-like bead and asked what it was and why he was giving it to her. The sweating man claimed he'd just found it, and she could throw it away if she didn't like it. Li Hua politely apologized, clearly delighted with the gift. This made the elder blush. He told her it was rigged with a safety device. If anyone angered her, she should throw it at them. The biqua within would make them regret it for the rest of their lives. Li Hua, holding the bead, beamed, then paused. Surely, the old man was joking, but she couldn't accept a gift without offering something in return. After a quick search in the flower bed, she presented the man with a bouquet of yellow flowers. "They match you, Grandpa," she complimented him. The man, as if receiving a priceless treasure, excitedly gave Li Hua all the red beads he had on him. Before she could refuse, he hopped away, overwhelmed by the girl's charm. All the clan elders sought Li Hua's attention. She was a Magong, the only child born in 200 years. Even the simplest gifts from her were treasured by the elders. One elder showed off a flower ring Li Hua had given him to the red-faced man, who suddenly felt his own bouquet wasn't quite so special. Only the Lion King hadn't given a gift yet. His sly grin suggested he already had something in mind. Meanwhile, Li Hua was troubled. She had used Jingyu's Cantonese-style engineering tools. How could she repay him? While the feud between their fathers was irreconcilable, repaying a debt was a matter of principle. Just then, the Lion King appeared. He picked up the flower garland Li Hua had dropped in fright and apologized profusely for startling her. Li Hua insisted it was her own fault for being timid. The Lion King stroked her soft head and asked to see her hand. Unsuspectingly, Li Hua offered it to him. This surprised the Lion King. He cautioned Li Hua against showing her vulnerable points to others so readily. Li Hua wasn't afraid. The Lion King reminded her of a kind grandfather from her previous life, but she simply said she liked him. After examining her, the Lion King told Li Hua her inner strength had grown considerably. Li Hua realized for the first time that she possessed inner strength. This would certainly make escaping easier, she thought, seeing the adorable girl. The Lion King presented his prepared gift, a gleaming magic staff. Li Hua felt a surge, as if some of her power was being drawn away. The Lion King explained. That was a staff made from a tree that thrived on cold energy. When it matured, it would bloom with ice flowers. These ice flowers were more precious than any gem. Overjoyed, Li Hua hugged the Lion King and kissed him. The Lion King's wrinkled face beamed. He had earned the affection of the heavenly demon. Having escaped her mother's abuse, Li Hua finally received her first cheat item since arriving in this world. She thought her life was about to take a dramatic turn for the better, but little did she know, this cheat item was a lazy freeloader constantly clinging to her. Li Hua refused to give Bai Fei any food and threatened to go to sleep unless he got off her. Exasperated, Bai Fei finally relinquished his claim to both pillow and bed and climbed down. This was a blatant challenge to her dignity as the young mistress of the demonic sect. Li Hua decided to teach him a lesson. She blew icy air at him relentlessly. To her surprise, he simply exhaled the excess cold back at her. Undeterred, she continued to channel her chilling chi towards him in a steady stream. She was determined to make sure he never clung to her again. Finally, under Li Hua's persistent efforts, Bai Fei bloomed his first flower. Gazing at the ice flower, Li Hua decided to seek out Yu Yulian the next day. The following day, she arrived at the cave where Yu Yulian cultivated. Ignoring her nanny's protests, she resolutely entered. Inside, Yu Yulian, deep in meditation, sensed her presence. He coldly questioned how she had entered. Li Hua, feeling a nervous flutter in her chest, approached him. Yu Yulian, speechless, simply stared. Was this what he meant by not disturbing him? He then ordered her to leave, stating that this was not a place for her. Li Hua quickly presented the bag she carried, but stumbled and fell. The pastries inside tumbled out. Li Hua gathered the bag. Retrieving an unspoiled persimmon cake, she offered it to Yu Yulian, urging him to eat. He refused, claiming he was fasting for cultivation. Li Hua ruthlessly saw through his excuse. Ignoring his protests, she attempted to feed him. Yu Yulian abruptly turned away. He would not be swayed by mere pastries. Li Hua realized he suspected the pastries were poisoned. She took a bite herself to prove their safety. Yu Yulian watched, Unable to avoid it any longer, he accepted a bite from her hand, hoping she would finally leave him in peace. Although Li Hua declared she would return, he saw something else in her bright, blue eyes. The captivating villain of the story had been conquered by Li Hua and her pastries. He had become a complete simp, in the parlance of martial arts novels. In the week following Li Hua's first pastry delivery, he began consciously collecting various delicious treats, fearing that Li Hua might go hungry. The nanny watched Li Hua pack braised meat into a bag. She sighed, pointing out that it would be cold by the time it reached the young sect master. Besides, hadn't the young mistress promised not to go back? Disturbing someone in secluded cultivation was extremely rude, but Li Hua insisted that Yu Yulian only ate dried medicinal fruits in his cave. He was too pitiful. For the sake of Yu Yulian's healthy development, she had to bring him some decent food and help him, just a little, to experience a normal, happy life. Unable to argue with her young mistress, the nanny finally agreed to accompany her. Li Hua promised this would be the last time. That is, the last time this month. Arriving at the cave once more, Li Hua searched everywhere, but couldn't find Yu Yulian. Finally, she discovered him behind a large rock. He was burning with fever and unconscious. Li Hua vigorously patted his cheeks. Yu Yulian stirred awake. Seeing her again, he weakly told her to leave. Looking at his flushed face, Li Hua couldn't abandon him. She grasped his sleeve to help him up, but Yu Yulian angrily flung her away. He fiercely told her not to linger and to get out. Seeing him like this, Li Hua could only turn and seek help elsewhere. The nanny, seeing Li Hua emerge so early, commented on their quick return. But Li Hua interrupted, urgently explaining that Yu Yulian was in danger and needed help. Ruiling, however, calmly stated that this was a test for the future sect leader. She started to lead Li Hua away. Li Hua, distraught, cried out, "What if he dies?" The nanny replied, "Then it is his fate." Before Li Hua could protest further, Ruiling firmly pulled her away from the cave. Meanwhile, Yu and Lian lay unconscious in the cave, the only child born into the demonic cult in 200 years. Not only had she captured everyone's affection, but she also held the attention of her handsome father. Even so, Li Hua still yearned to escape. Step 1 of her plan: distract her nanny. The little girl, nestled under the covers, asked Raline to prepare a meal. Once the nanny had left, she began to gather her belongings. Looking at the meager ice flowers and contemplating her future, she channeled her chi to try and produce more. But the exertion was too much, and Li Hua felt her strength waning. Eyeing her packed bundle, she seized the moment while the servants were absent and hurried to the cave where the male protagonist resided. Yu Yulian, deep in meditation, was lost in painful memories. 7 years ago, his mother had hidden him in a cupboard. Then he heard a scream. When he emerged, he saw the heavenly demon wiping blood from his sword. And so, the young boy was kidnapped by the heavenly demon and brought to the demonic cult. Through relentless training, he became the young cult leader. Just then, footsteps echoed from the cave entrance. Unsurprisingly, it was the young miss again. Yulian jumped to his feet. He couldn't understand why she frequented this place. He told her not to come any closer. Li Hua looked at the slightly agitated Yulian and explained that she was worried about him being sick. She then tugged at his sleeve, asking if his fever had broken. Touching her icy hand, Yu Yulian immediately asked with concern what was wrong. The girl nervously explained it was due to the weather. Then, untying the bundle on her back, she revealed the purpose of her visit. She knew that Yu Yulian didn't want to stay in the demonic cult. She knew his dream. Now, she would help him leave to fulfill his future aspirations. Yu Yulian was stunned by her actions. Caught off guard, he found his hand taken by hers as she pulled him along. She used the weather to their advantage, obscuring their tracks. With excitement, she told him this was the perfect moment she had chosen. Pointing ahead, she urged him to go quickly. She also explained that the bundle should sustain him for several years. With that, she pushed him forward, urging his departure. Yu Yulian looked ahead, then back at the girl. Perhaps this was his best chance to escape. Clutching the bundle, he rushed out the gates of the demonic cult. Destined to be the most powerful martial artist in this fictional world, he had nonetheless suffered a tragic childhood. Yu Yulian had lived a peaceful life with his parents, but the arrival of the heavenly demon shattered everything. Though a good friend of his father, the heavenly demon had brought ruin and devastation upon his family. Yulian would forever remember that pitch-black night. His mother had abruptly woken him from his sleep, scooped him up, and hidden him in the cupboard, urging him to stay quiet and hidden. Then came the screams from outside. He crept out, and opening the door, saw a flurry of flashing blades. The heavenly demon was withdrawing his sword from a lifeless body. Seeing him, the heavenly demon grabbed him, disregarding his pleas and imprisoning him within the demonic cult. His dreams of an ordinary life grew increasingly distant. He trained relentlessly, driven by the desire to avenge his parents. But today, the young miss had unearthed his secret dream. This was his hidden desire. How did she know? He had saved her before, using his precious chi out of guilt. He had done so willingly. Even if it meant paying the price 1,000 times over, he wouldn't have regretted it. But he never expected her to help him fulfill his dream. It was a sweet offer he couldn't refuse. It was as sweet as the persimmon cake the girl had given him last time. Yu Yulian was ecstatic, thinking about his imminent freedom. He grabbed the bundle Li Hua had prepared and ran forward with all his might. But a thud echoed from behind him. Turning back, he saw the girl had fallen to the ground. Yu Yulian's mind went blank. He immediately scooped Li Hua onto his back and ran back to her room. Seeing the wet nurse, he urged her to go and prepare hot. After hearing what happened, Zhuling didn't bother asking why. She hurried out to make arrangements. Yu Yulian suddenly felt the bundle and opened it. It was full of ice flowers. Creating so many would be difficult even for a skilled martial artist. So it was because of these that Li Hua was so weak. There was a blood feud between them. But why couldn't he bring himself to be cruel? Looking at the ice flowers in his hand, he silently tucked one into his robe. The demonic sect's young mistress had exhausted her inner energy and collapsed, all to help him escape. Yu Yulian clutched the ice flower, unable to understand why the girl would do something so reckless. Perhaps his leaving was the best thing for Li Hua. Just then, a pained sound came from the girl on the bed. Li Hua opened her eyes to see Yu Yulian watching over her. She immediately blamed herself, asking if he had come back because of her. Yu Yulian crushed an ice flower, telling her not to misunderstand. He didn't care about her that much, he claimed, tears welling in his blue eyes. Yu Yulian, looking at the girl, thought she had seen through his lie. To hide his Wanglon, he grabbed Li Hua. He threatened to snap her neck if she continued like this. With that, he turned and left with a swagger. 3 years drifted by like this. The two never saw each other again. Zhuling was preparing to leave for the village. Before leaving, she reminded Li Hua to be good. Li Hua teased Zhuling, telling her to go back to the village and enjoy time with her loved one. Zhuling patted the young mistress affectionately, urging her to go to sleep. After settling Li Hua, she extinguished the lamp and left. But the girl in bed tossed and turned. She thought back to the escape attempt 3 years ago. Because she had fainted, Yu Yulian hadn't gotten away. Logically, they should have become friends. Later, Yu Yulian not only returned the thing she had prepared for him, but also threatened her. Then he returned to his secluded mountain cave to cultivate. The girl mumbled in bed. He didn't return everything. He kept the ice flowers. Just then, a whimpering sound came from behind her. Li Hua turned to see that it was Bai Fei making the noise. He seemed hungry again, but Li Hua wasn't going to indulge him. She rolled over to go back to sleep. Bai Fei continued to nudge her. This angered Li Hua, and she prepared to discipline him. A metallic scent of blood reached her. This put her on alert. She grabbed the weapon beside her and went to the door. Transmigrated to become everyone's darling, Li Hua, in order to successfully grow up, helped the male protagonist escape the demonic sect's control. Unexpectedly, he didn't appreciate it, leading to 3 years of estrangement between them. That night, the girl smelled blood in the air. When she went to investigate, she discovered that her maid, who usually protected her, was being threatened by a man in black. He struck the maid, demanding she reveal the young mistress's location. Seeing her maid being abused, Li Hua gripped her sword, ready to teach the man a lesson. Unexpectedly, Bai Fei tugged her forward. The man in black was already behind her. He grinned wickedly. "So you're here?" Li Hua startled. Li Hua calmly asked the man who he was. With chilling nonchalance, he replied that he was a murderer, then asked if she was afraid. Li Hua hesitantly looked at Scarface. She felt the need to say something, anything, to break the tense silence. She asked him how he got the scar on his lip. Scarface's voice dripped with malice as he explained that his master had ripped his lip because he cried too loudly. He grumbled that if he ever tried to have friends, his fingernails would be pulled out. Li Hua responded nervously, "Then I guess you don't have any friends. Want to play hide and seek?" the man asked, his excitement barely contained as he moved closer to Li Hua. He added that he needed to chop off her hands before they started, as it was his client's request. He was just doing his job, an eye for an eye. Li Hua instantly understood. It was the North Sea Ice Palace, come for revenge. She knew she was likely doomed, but she had to buy herself some time to escape. "If you cut off my hands," she argued, "I won't be able to play." Scarface considered this, then countered that she knew the area better than he did, making it unfair. Therefore, he would have to wound her. "That way, I can follow your blood trail." Li Hua realized she wouldn't escape unscathed, so she bargained with him to only cut her arm, as she needed her legs to run. Scarface agreed. He then instructed her to stand still, lest he cut somewhere else by mistake. The irony wasn't lost on her. The daughter of the demonic sect leader, offering her own arm to survive. Li Hua closed her eyes, bracing for the searing pain of the blade. Suddenly, her ice sword sprang to life, seemingly of its own accord. As expected, the assassin was drawn to the commotion. Just as the sword finished its work, Li Hua's maid tripped the assassin. This bought Li Hua precious seconds to flee. Running with all her might, Li Hua clutched her staff and burst into a room, hiding behind a screen, her heart pounding in her chest. The assassin strolled past, his voice a chilling whisper, promising to find her quickly and end her life. Li Hua clapped a hand over her mouth, terrified he would hear her. "Father, where are you? Anyone please help me." She prayed silently. Suddenly, Yu Yulian appeared, clamping a hand over her mouth to silence her. Relief washed over Li Hua at the sight of him. He looked her over with concern, explaining he'd come to investigate the commotion outside. He was relieved to see she was unharmed. Li Hua, still trembling, recounted her terrifying ordeal. She confessed that her maid, her sister, had sacrificed herself to protect her. Yu Yulian took her hands, offering comfort. It was the maid's duty. He reassured her it wasn't her fault. He led her to a bookcase and moved it aside, revealing a secret passage. "This leads to the village outside," he explained. He urged her to go, to escape quickly. Li Hua hesitated. "Aren't you coming?" Yu Yulian glanced outside. There was more than one assassin. He told her to go, promising to follow shortly. Li Hua knew it was dangerous. How could she leave him to face them alone? He would be the best someday, but that was a future yet to come when he was a grown man. He was still just a boy. She couldn't leave him. Li Hua gripped his arm, refusing to let him go. She reminded him of the times he'd told her he hated her. She threatened to act recklessly if he didn't leave. Yu Yulian, his jaw clenched, pulled her hand away. "I don't hate you," he said, his voice strained, "but there's bad blood between us. We should stay away from each other, not be so close." With that, he pushed her into the passage. He had never liked her, yet in this moment of life and death, Yu Yulian gave her the chance to live. The assassin burst through the door. Yu Yulian met him head-on, ready to fight. Elsewhere, the heavenly demon listened as the wet nurse reported on his daughter's well-being. Learning that Li Hua's internal energy had reached a level befitting a skilled martial artist, Tianma considered teaching her combat techniques to protect her from bullies. As a father, he wished for Li Hua to grow up safe and happy, eventually leading a peaceful life with someone she loved. Since the North Sea Ice Palace's challenge, he had come to the village to divert their attention, ensuring his daughter's safety. But they had been inactive for a while now. Perhaps he could return to check on Li Hua. The thought of his daughter's warm, small hands and her adorable smile made his heart melt. Just then, a servant rushed in, bearing news of the North Sea Ice Palace's sudden attack. The elders had been lured away from the demonic sect by the Ice Palace's experts. The moment they left, countless assassins attacked the sect. The young mistress is in danger. Tianma instantly recognized the diversionary tactic. Yu Yulian, bowing deeply, urgently requested permission to return and aid Li Hua. But Tianma's response never came. Looking up, Yu Yulian found Tianma already gone. Back at the sect, he continued to hold off the enemy. With a defiant smile and unwavering words, Yu Yulian forced back his opponents with his sword. The tension reached a fever pitch. Hidden in a tunnel, Li Hua trembled with anxiety, unsure if it was safe to leave. In the room, Yu Yulian fought against a group of attackers, retreating after sustaining injuries. He knocked on a cabinet, signaling Li Hua to escape. Fear gripped the girl even tighter. What would happen to Yu Yulian if she ran? He was the story's protagonist, but the plot had already drastically deviated from the original. Would he truly be alright? She knew staying would only burden him. Yet if she left, would Yu Yulian be safe? As she hesitated, her eyes fell upon the red bamboo given to her by the red-faced elder. Perhaps this could offer them a chance. Crossing into this world, she was fated to be killed by the protagonist. Yet against all odds, she had somehow won his favor. Yu Yulian would protect her with his life. But as he fought, blood loss from his shoulder wound weakened him, and he began to falter. His grip on his sword trembled. He couldn't retreat, not against the assassin's ferocity. He wondered if Li Hua had found Tianma. In that moment of distraction, an assassin lunged for the kill. Just as the blade was about to strike Yu Yulian, Li Hua appeared, pushing him out of the way. Her arm was slashed, but Yu Yulian was safe. He immediately helped her up. He deflected a thrown dagger and anxiously examined her wound. Li Hua was simply relieved to have returned in time. She had almost lost him. Yu Yulian wondered if he was hallucinating. Why was Li Hua here? He scolded her for not escaping. Li Hua softly replied that she had the explosive beads. They could escape together. Back to back, she apologized. It was her fault he was in danger. The assassins had stopped attacking. They were likely waiting for reinforcements. The situation was dire. Perhaps this was where they would die. The thought of never confessing his feelings to Li Hua prompted Yu Yulian to blurt out, "The persimmon cakes were delicious. The best I've ever had. If we survive this, I'll make you more." Li Hua turned, her face lighting up. "Yes," she agreed happily. The male protagonist warned of enemies ahead. The scarred man, searching for the girl outside, also arrived on the scene. Smiling at the pair, he called for Li Hua to approach. Yu Yulian shielded the young mistress with his sword. The scarred man laughed, remarking on how adorable the two were. He mused about whether to sever the protagonist's left hand, his right, or perhaps both at once. While he pondered, the protagonist told the girl to throw a marble when he gave the signal. He vowed not to leave the young mistress alone again. The first girl born in 200 years to the national sect was being relentlessly pursued by the North Sea soldiers. To buy time for their escape, the protagonist channeled all his internal energy into his sword. The scarred man anticipated a powerful attack and braced himself, ready to counter. Unexpectedly, Yu Yulian shattered his sword with a tremor of energy, injuring the surrounding black-clad men. The girl seized the opportunity to throw a red explosive, catching them completely off guard. The next moment, an explosion roared through the air. The two immediately fled through the tunnel. Li Hua, unable to run any further, stopped. The protagonist, his heart aching at the sight of the young mistress's pale face, prepared to carry her. Li Hua refused and instead offered him a healing balm for his wounds. Seeing her weakened state, he applied it to her first. As he applied the balm, Yu Yulian noticed her hand was icy cold. He worried about her health, but they had to keep running, pushing forward to escape. The previous fight had severely depleted their strength. Just as Li Hua stumbled and fell, Yu Yulian saw a sliver of light through a crack in a door ahead. The light rekindled their hope. They were almost free. Opening this door would lead them to the village. As the protagonist pushed the door open, they found themselves facing a throng of assassins. The scarred man greeted them with a mocking laugh, taunting them about their predictable escape route. He declared he would take one of Yu Yulian's eyes as payment for their injured comrades. The scarred man pointed his sword at Yu Yulian. To protect the young mistress behind him, the protagonist didn't flinch. The sharp blade sliced Yu Yulian's arm. The scarred man feigned an apology, claiming it was a slip of the hand. He threatened to aim better next time and prepare to strike again. Suddenly, Li Hua stepped forward, brandishing her ice staff. The scarred man scoffed at her toy, asking if she wanted to play house. But then the ice staff pulsed with frigid energy, its aura glowing brightly. Snow began to fall heavily. The scarred man curiously caught a snowflake, and his hand instantly began to freeze. In the next moment, his entire body was encased in ice. The scarred man's underlings turned to flee. The ice storm quickly dissipated. Yu Yulian marveled at the snowflakes, realizing their lethal power was directed only at their enemies. Li Hua collapsed. The protagonist quickly hoisted her onto his back and fled down the mountain. But in the next instant, he felt a lightness on his back. Li Hua had been taken. Yu Yulian's heart plummeted. He spun around, threatening whoever had taken her, vowing vengeance if she was harmed. The time-traveling girl, burdened by a difficult fate, was the precious daughter of the heavenly demon. Upon learning of his daughter's pursuit, the heavenly demon's fury was boundless. A single word, Lienor, uttered by the figure, brought immediate relief to the protagonist. His guard down, he immediately knelt. The heavenly demon, after reassuring his disciple, soared into the sky, cradling his daughter. The crimson moon illuminated the heavenly demon's stern face. The assassins below were exposed in the stark light. With a single glance, the black-clad men crumpled to the ground, lifeless. He pointed a finger upwards. and the scarred man, stripped of his former arrogance, was lifted uncontrollably into the air. Facing the heavenly demon, the scarred man pleaded for mercy. This was all at the behest of the Northern Sea Ice Palace. The heavenly demon, a father, refused to listen to his excuses. He gripped the scarred man's neck with both hands, demonic energy surging within him. The man visibly withered before their eyes, leaving behind only his clothes in the next instant. Witnessing this, the demon, black-clothed person understood that he was the demonic sect master. His eyes glowed red. Like a Satan from hell, the black-clothed person felt a wave of suffocating pressure. But Li Hua's pained whimpers brought him back to his senses. He gently patted the small, trembling form in his arms. He turned and left to find a doctor, leaving behind only a pile of clothes where the black-clothed person had stood. Back in the room, the man looked at the girl on the bed. This wasn't the first time someone close to him had been harmed. He couldn't help but recall the past. His closest friend had been persecuted. That was why he had distanced himself from his daughter, hoping to keep her safe. But Li Hua had still been put in danger. Perhaps keeping her close would be a better way to protect her. He called for a servant. He ordered the servant to summon the sex experts, including Lion King, and to carefully examine the girl. After the examination, they informed him that the young mistress would need a month to fully recover. The heavenly demon smiled upon hearing this. That was more than enough time to wipe out the Northern Sea Ice Palace. He turned and ordered his followers to begin preparations, adding that they should also destroy the black wolves of the Central Plains. He would not spare anyone who had harmed his daughter. The Heiyu sex experts gathered. The heavenly demon stood before them, clad in black and red. His followers bowed and greeted him. He wasted no words. He directly ordered the annihilation of the Northern Sea Ice Palace. "Show them no mercy," he commanded. "I want the entire world to know the price of harming my daughter." He then led the charge. The cherished daughter of the demonic sect master had been pursued by assassins from the Northern Sea Ice Palace. Upon learning this, the heavenly demon immediately mobilized the Heiyu sect for retribution. When Li Hua awoke a month later, her wet nurse wept with joy, but also with guilt. It was all her fault. If she hadn't left the young mistress's side, the assassins wouldn't have had an opportunity. Li Hua didn't blame her. She insisted that she felt strong. The heavenly demon was still puzzled. How had Li Hua saved herself? And what had become of Yuelian? The wet nurse informed him that Yuelian had recovered, and she had already resumed her cultivation. The heavenly demon, to publicly acknowledge his daughter, had eradicated the ice palace. He declared to the world that Li Hua was his most precious treasure. Anyone who dared to harm his daughter would suffer the same fate as the ice palace. The heavenly demon explained that his previous distance from Li Hua had also been a way to protect her. Li Hua, feeling a depth of paternal love she had never known, felt tears welling in her eyes. Her father truly cared for her. The next day, the sect members showered her with gifts. Li Hua, gazing at the glittering presents, felt a blush creep up her cheeks. They were spoiling her, but she thought perhaps all these gifts could serve as funds for her escape someday. Among the gift givers, one young man seemed out of place. The wet nurse explained that he was Lion King's disciple, and the other elderly men were elders of the sect. Guilt gnawed at the girl. She knew from the book that these people would eventually meet a tragic end. Yet, they showered her with such affection. How could she abandon them? Shulin, Li Hua's nanny, watched the young Mrs. face, etched with worry. Just as she was about to ask what troubled her, Li Hua pulled out the ice flower brooches she had prepared. Shulin assumed they were for the elders. Instead, the girl offered one to her nanny. Li Hua had saved the most beautiful ice flower for Shulin, the woman who had cared for her since infancy. Shulin was deeply touched. She hadn't expected the young miss to treat her with such familial affection. Just then, Anwei appeared, startling Li Hua. She playfully scolded Anwei for not announcing his presence, but then he called out to her, "Father's back." Li Hua hurried towards the main hall. She saw Tianma just landing and immediately rushed forward to greet him. Looking at the man in black robes and red lining, Li Hua felt a surge of gratitude. She had a father. She was no longer the lonely girl from her past life. She fumbled in her pocket for the gift she had for her father, ready to present it to him. But Tianma stopped her. He was still covered in blood from the recent battle and didn't want to stain his daughter. But Li Hua, unfazed, threw herself into his arms. How could she possibly be disgusted by the father she cared for so deeply? She cried like the reborn child she was. In her past life, she had been cold and indifferent. Perhaps this was the difference between having someone to love and being alone. Lihua clung to her father, confessing her fear of losing him again. Tiamat smiled gently and assured her he would never leave. Overcome with guilt that her father had been injured for her sake, she worried he might be put in danger again because of her. Tiamat reassured her, "The only one in this world who can hurt me is you, little one. So don't cry." The elders gathered around, offering their own words of comfort. The red-faced, burly man declared that anyone who dared to harm the young miss would face dire consequences. The Lion King added that all that mattered was Lihua's health and happiness. The Eagle King teased her, saying if she continued to cry, her eyes would swell shut. Their playful banter finally brought a smile to Lihua's face. She earnestly asked the elders, "Can I call you all Grandpa?" The three elders, initially startled, quickly and enthusiastically agreed. Tiamat took his daughter's small hand in his, examining her tiny fingernails. He worried aloud if she was still unwell. Everyone immediately surrounded Lihua, vying for her attention. Amidst the affectionate chaos, Lihua knew with absolute certainty that she could never abandon them. Later, the Heavenly Demon Sect held an emergency meeting. The elders, each sporting an ice flower, strutted about like proud peacocks. The red-faced man puffed out his chest, boasting about how refreshingly cool his brooch felt against his skin. The Eagle King, feigning indifference, scoffed as if he didn't care. He then humbly claimed he hadn't wanted to trouble the young miss, but she had insisted he accept the flower ring she offered. He proudly displayed the ring on his finger, much to the red-faced man's annoyance. A squabble seemed imminent. The Lion King calmly entered the scene, wearing not one, not two, but 3 ice flowers, a subtle smile playing on his lips. He stunned the others with his casual remark, "Oh, is everyone wearing flowers today?" His blatant one-upmanship was a clear provocation. Thankfully, Tiamat arrived just in time to prevent an all-out brawl. The once ruthless members of the Heavenly Demon Sect were evolving. They were becoming doting grandfathers, all thanks to Lihua's presence. The assembled crowd then noticed Tianma's bare chest, devoid of any floral adornment. They exchanged gleeful glances, but Tianma, ignoring their amusement, addressed the official document sent by the Martial Arts Alliance. They were sending an investigative team to Jiaoli. Murmurs rippled through the room. Don't they usually try to avoid us? Why are they suddenly so eager to get involved? The red-faced, burly man arrived with a fierce look. He must be here to gather intelligence for the Alliance. The Heavenly Demon Lord understood his intentions, but he decided to open his doors anyway. After all, his daughter couldn't stay hidden within the sect forever. The elders, unaware of his reasoning, began to panic. The Alliance was full of treacherous villains who hid their malice behind a benevolent facade. What if something happened to their young mistress? 300 years ago, the demonic sect and the Alliance had cooperated, but those hypocrites had used them as pawns. There was no need to associate with them. The Heavenly Demon Lord, however, countered that Lihua couldn't remain within the sect's walls indefinitely. Seeing their worried expressions, he assured them he wouldn't let his daughter fall into danger. The Lion King also agreed with the Demon Lord's decision. This opportunity would allow the young mistress to understand that the demonic sect revered strength, but not evil. Though the Central Plains viewed them as a thorn in their side, they feared them and viewed the young mistress with suspicion. So this opportunity might change the Alliance's perception of them. It might foster goodwill towards his daughter. The discussion concluded, and messengers were sent to inform the Alliance of their acceptance of the visit. The visit was scheduled for his daughter's birthday. Upon hearing mention of the young mistress's birthday, the elders began to buzz with excitement. The Lion King, with a start, realized the reason for the Demon Lord's good mood. He had just been puzzling over why the Demon Lord had been subtly gesturing with a raised finger towards the two behind him. Then they noticed it. The sparkling hair ornament nestled in the Demon Lord's red hair. It was the ice flower, crafted by the young mistress herself, set off by the delicate ice flower. The Heavenly Demon Lord's smile nearly blinded everyone present. Uncle Quan had unexpectedly become the demonic sect's beloved mascot. But as everyone's precious darling, such a small body bore a heavy responsibility. Lihua not only had to appease the elders and give her father a daily hug, but also craft ice flowers to supplement the household income. Now, her father had even tasked her with hosting the Alliance. Although the elders disapproved, the heavenly demon lord had absolute faith in Li Hua's ability to succeed. Meanwhile, the wet nurse arrived in the back courtyard and, seeing the uncles constructing a building, curiously pointed at the distant structure and inquired about it. Shu Lin smiled and explained that it was where the experts resided. Previously, because the demon lord would often lose control and accidentally injure them, the experts had lived in a village 100 kilometers away. But now that the young mistress's existence had been revealed to the world, for her safety, the experts now resided within the sect. This way, they could better protect the young mistress. When the little girl arrived, the sect members presented her with the small cookies they had prepared, reminding her that she could only eat one per day, lest she spoil her teeth. Li Hua inwardly rolled her eyes, exasperated by their cloying affection. She briefly considered protesting, but then resigned herself to the fact that she was, for now, a child. Just then, the red-faced, burly man appeared, inviting the young mistress to his quarters. As the girl looked at him in confusion, the man explained that he had found a small dress. He was sure it would fit the young mistress. Those present secretly chuckled at this. He then took the girl's hand, intending to spoil her, but Li Hua refused. She wouldn't be able to see her grandfather's handsome face if she went with him. The red-faced man, delighted by the young mistress's explanation, expertly led her away. Elsewhere, the heavenly demon lord, having learned that his daughter was using ice flowers as currency, summoned in Wei to inquire about the reason. He discovered that there had been a misunderstanding within the Lion King's domain. But how could the doting demon lord disappoint his daughter? He declared that, from now on, within the heavenly demon village, each ice flower would be worth 10 gold pieces. This pampered child of the martial arts world not only showered her father with kisses daily, but also coaxed the male lead to eat his meals. Learning that his daughter was heading to the training grounds again, the heavenly demon lord sulked, consumed by jealousy. But surely, in his daughter's heart, he was her most beloved, and so, life continued, with everyone showering Li Hua with affection. The Alliance inspection team finally arrived. Exhausted from their journey, they began to discuss what kind of person the demonic sect's young mistress might be. Some had heard rumors of her filial piety, others that the heavenly demon, her companion, was a strikingly handsome man. But one of them interrupted, reminding the others that her mother was the Ice Palace Witch. Surely the daughter must be a demon as well. Just then, Li Hua appeared, radiating an almost sparkling presence. She had come to greet them. Seeing a child as their welcomer, the delegates wondered if the demonic sect was planning to give them a hard time. Upon learning that the girl was indeed the demonic sect's young mistress, the Alliance representative stepped forward and offered greetings. He introduced the members of his entourage. Li Hua listened intently, her gaze fixed on each of them. This wasn't the same group listed on the roster they had sent ahead. The representative chuckled nervously. There have been some adjustments, he admitted. Li Hua pointed out that this wasn't what they had agreed upon. Furthermore, they hadn't notified her of these changes. The representative responded coolly that even if it was just a child's birthday, attending uninvited would be impolite. Realizing that this little girl was not easily swayed, the man bowed deeply and apologized. Seeing this, Li Hua relented and led them inside, introducing them to her family. The delegation was surprised. Were they to meet the legendary heavenly demon so soon? Li Hua then began to describe the layout of her home. Suddenly, the Alliance members felt a wave of suffocating pressure. Li Hua sighed and warned them that if they continued like this, there would be no ice flowers for them. At that moment, an elder appeared beside Li Hua. The girl cheerfully introduced him as her grandfather. The Alliance members were stunned. This was clearly one of the 10 great elders of the demonic sect. Surely this endearing Chunghub, term of address/title, was a deception. Nevertheless, they nervously offered their greetings. The red-faced elders didn't seem impressed. Li Hua smiled at her grandfather. The elder grunted a few words to the delegation, then turned to Li Hua with an expectant look. He requested 2 ice flowers to soothe his wounded spirit. Seeing this, the Lion King wasn't to be outdone. He boisterously welcomed the delegation, then immediately turned to Li Hua, vying for ice flowers as well. Witnessing this harmonious scene, the delegates began to wonder if they had walked into the wrong place. Li Hua told the delegation to rest well. She would give them a tour tomorrow. The representative agreed in a daze. The The elder then carried Li Hua away on his back. These two, natural enemies by birth, had developed a strange affection for each other. Li Hua's began with admiration for his appearance and deepened into a sense of guilt. Yu Yulian, on the other hand, was deeply drawn to the girl's kindness. Double tap the screen to light up the little red heart. Comment section doghead for protection. Updates vary. After receiving the Alliance inspection team, Li Hua went with her grandfather to the training grounds. Looking at the elders gathered there, Li Hua sternly warned them not to bully their guests. The Lion King interjected, explaining that those fellows all had ulterior motives. Anyone with eyes can see who was behind the Bingong massacre. They're just looking for an excuse to seize the demonic sect's assets and start a war. So wouldn't it be better for us to strike first? Another elder suggested. But that would only confirm the demonic sect's wickedness, another countered. Li Hua didn't want her grandfather to become a villain. After all, the original reason the Alliance attacked was based on this very pretext. Now, with her father and his relatives involved, she would never allow that tragedy to repeat itself. The Lion King patted Li Hua's head and solemnly promised to restrain himself. All right, he agreed. Li Hua then went to the training grounds, seeing the person he had been longing for arrive. The male lead feigned impatience, but Li Hua was used to his gruff exterior hiding a soft heart. She opened the meticulously prepared 10-course restorative meal. Watching the male lead begin to eat with surprising elegance, Li Hua asked curiously, "Why don't you hate the food I bring anymore?" Yu Yulian's return was just a travel promise, she thought. Such a stubborn person. Likely only he could be like this. But looking at the male lead, as refined and elegant as jade, yet separated from his parents by death, and then looking at herself, doted upon by everyone, Li Hua decided she must make Yu Yulian strong. Suddenly noticing the wound on his forehead, she gently reached out to caress it, softly asking, "Does it hurt?" Yu Yulian shyly lowered his head, saying he was fine. Seeing his unusual reaction, Li Hua, even more worried, moved closer to examine it. He immediately, defensively, waved her away. His flushed cheeks and thundering heartbeat betrayed him. Li Hua looked at him expectantly, asking if he could leave his seclusion on her birthday. He refused outright, seeing him so resolute. Li Hua clenched her fists, telling herself not to be angry. But she didn't know that he had already prepared something. A single glance revealed the ferocity hidden within him. The rescued martial artist broke out in a cold sweat. Yet this same man possessed the affections of a pure and innocent, love-struck young heiress. Because of this, the heavenly demon put on a dashing and refined facade when facing his daughter. Even a male lead adopted a suave and debonair demeanor when with Li Hua. So, her love-struck behavior after transmigrating was understandable. Like over 5,000 and add a dog head emoji for protection. Daily updates for the sequel. When Yu Yulian learned that Li Hua was to host the Alliance inspection team, he immediately asked who was the most handsome among the kings. Li Hua, eyes shining, declared it was young Master Zhuge. The supposedly most handsome male lead tensed, nervously telling her to stay away from that man. The Alliance members were all masters of sweet talk and manipulation, and Li Hua was easily swayed by good looks. He even cited examples of how she usually reacted to him and the cult leader, irrefutable proof. Li Hua's few pale, feeble explanations couldn't cover it up. She could only change the subject, asking why he hadn't brought Bing Hua, ice flower. Yu Yulian claimed disinterest in his opponent. Then, remembering he couldn't attend her birthday banquet due to his cultivation, he presented a hand-carved butterfly pendant. He had imbued it with his spiritual energy. It would provide a touch of warmth when she felt cold. Li Hua looked at the necklace. Though crude, it was made with care. She immediately asked him to put on her. As the necklace settled, a warm, gentle smile spread across Yu Yulian's face. "Happy birthday, Miss Li Hua." She immediately understood. This was an early birthday gift. Before Li Hua could express her thanks, he stroked her hair and issued a dismissal order. Li Hua could only leave, feeling dejected. Yu Yulian watched her go, his heart filled with a strange emptiness. He clearly disliked Li Hua. Yet when she truly left, he began to miss her. Was he ill? He pulled his hair back and tightened his belt. Only cultivation could calm his current unease, and his worry that Zhuge would steal Li Hua away. Li Hua, pampered by the demonic cult, possessed the unique ice skills of the North Sea and an innate talent for internal energy rivaling even the heavenly demons. Full innate abilities, the frail little girl of yesterday appeared today on the training grounds, learning the various forms of the white flower divine sword. Click the little red heart and type a big dog head emoji. I'll perform a bone-swallowing act right away. Quickly tag your friends to join in, to change the future fate of the demonic cult within the book. Li Hua desperately practiced her martial arts techniques. Regarding the members of the Alliance inspection team, Li Hua still felt something wasn't quite right. In the book, it only mentioned that Bu Zhuge Xian had Li Hua's father assume the position of Alliance leader. As for the other's self-comforting behavior, it was only this momentary lapse in concentration that the heavenly demon noticed. He grasped his daughter's hand, correcting her mistake. Li Hua also expressed her apologies for the error. Afterwards, she devoted herself entirely to her practice. Following the secrets of the Baiwa Divine Sword Manual, she meticulously traced each stroke of every move, hoping to achieve the effect of commands manifesting into reality. But a single ice flower from the heavenly demon left the girl speechless and embarrassed. He explained that every point of the technique had to be precise. Otherwise, the famed scene of ice flowers filling the sky wouldn't occur. Looking at Li Hua's dejected figure, the heavenly demon, doting on his daughter, guided her cultivation. The girl couldn't understand why creating ice flowers seemed so simple for him, while hers lacked any destructive power. During the previous crisis, she had managed to unleash the ice flowers with a splash of power. She stood and voiced her questions to her father. Because power is formless, the heavenly demon couldn't describe it. Frustrated, Li Hua wailed. Everyone doted on her, but no one would help her. Watching his daughter's childish tantrum, he smiled gently, stroking the stray hairs by Li Hua's ear. He teased her about making no progress despite being pampered in the palace. Li Hua responded with a speechless smile. But seeing the expectation in her father's eyes, a flower-like smile immediately bloomed on her face. The next moment, the heavenly demon declared he hadn't held any expectations in the first place. The girl was crestfallen. Was she really that bad? But then he told her that her technique was already perfect, just that she couldn't unleash its power yet. But to reach this level at her age was already remarkable. He hadn't held any expectations precisely because she was already so good. Li Hua's face flushed with the praise. Seeing her father's open arms, she rushed into his embrace. He held her tightly. She decided to reluctantly take a break. After all, tomorrow's grand event was waiting for her. The heavenly demon, destined to be stifled by fate. Was he protecting and imprisoning her with love, or embracing her with tenderness? Li Hua chose to ignore fate, because to her, her father was a special existence. The heavenly demon also protected her in his own way. Thus, neither of them knew they were each other's light. Carrying his daughter to the backyard, he inquired about the inspection team's recent behavior. Li Hua reported that everything was normal. The Alliance representative had intended to gradually eliminate the Black Wolf Gang's experts. But after meeting her Lion King grandfather, he was so terrified he trembled uncontrollably. His pathetic display was almost unbearable to watch. Even so, the girl remained uneasy. Were those people truly from the Alliance? Could someone be impersonating them? The heavenly demon shook his head firmly. It was impossible to maintain such a perfect disguise. Besides, with him around, no one would dare to act recklessly within the sect. Seeing her father's confidence, she suppressed her unease. She would keep a close eye on these people. If anything seemed amiss, she would immediately inform her father and grandfathers. Looking at her father's handsome and gentle smile, Li Hua transformed into a little fangirl. She couldn't help but place a flower in his hair. For a moment, it was hard to tell whether the flower or the person was more beautiful. She praised his breathtaking beauty, declaring that only her father could possess such looks. Seeing this, the heavenly demon also picked a flower and tucked it behind Li Hua's ear. "Now this is true beauty," he said. Li Hua blushed deeply at the compliment. Then she mentioned that the inspection team wanted to visit the closed cultivation area. But that was the family's best cultivation spot, a place only her father and she were allowed to enter. Liwa worriedly thought her father wouldn't agree. But, to her surprise, the heavenly demon agreed without hesitation. Since her father had agreed, it meant there was nothing to worry about. The next day, the girl was playing ball in the courtyard. She accidentally kicked the ball toward a Shaolin master, thinking he was there for obvious reasons. But the monk informed her he was praying to Ajura. Hearing this word, a sudden unease gripped the girl. The monk continued, "Benefactor, do you believe in past and present lives?" Having transmigrated into this world, the protagonist, of course, believed. He immediately smiled, saying, "Benefactor, you are also within the cycle of Ajura. Karmic cause and effect are inevitable." These paradoxical words bewildered Lihua, but the cruel glint in the monk's eyes hinted at something amiss. Transmigrated as the cherished daughter of the martial world's sworn enemy, she spent her days being cuddled and carried by her father. Someone, it seemed, wanted to destroy this blissful picture. Beneath the compassionate facade of the esteemed Master Jingxian lurked a sinister heart. Lihua encountered Master Jingxian in the courtyard. She invited him to attend her birthday banquet that evening, but he declined, citing pressing family matters. He then packed his belongings and left, leaving the girl perplexed. This angered the trees in the forest behind her. Saying he couldn't attend wasn't just about fearing poisoned food, was it? But Lihua's focus wasn't on that. Watching the master's retreating figure, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Perhaps she was just being overly sensitive. As expected, Master Jingxian didn't appear at the banquet, but the members of the alliance were quite pleased with the demonic sect's hospitality. This eased the girl's unease somewhat. The next day, she took them to visit the secluded cultivation caves. This unremarkable place was the training ground of past sect leaders. As she led the group inside, a sense of foreboding began to creep over Lihua. But knowing that her grandfather and Yin Ling were secretly watching, she felt it should be all right. She led them inside. Upon entering, the alliance members found the cave empty. There were no spiritual herbs, no gemstones. Further ahead lay the Forbidden Zone, a place where even experts could get lost. After hearing the girl's explanation, the group expressed their disappointment but didn't press further. It just so happened that Wu Jin, covered in dirt, was clamoring to leave. He was mocked by the others, still traumatized by a past incident. Lihua, puzzled, asked Zhuge Xian what had happened. Decades ago, young servants from a large sect had disappeared. They were the ones involved in that incident. When everyone assumed they were dead, they returned. They claimed to have simply gotten lost in the caves for a few days. Lihua's heart skipped a beat. This disappearance was one of the catalysts for the demonic sect's downfall in the book. Because when the missing children were found, they had all committed suicide. It was clearly not a natural death. Although there was no concrete evidence, the Alliance naturally placed the blame on the demonic sect. But how could these individuals, who should have been dead, be part of the delegation? Was it a coincidence? Or was there some other hidden, uncontrollable factor at play? Sun Shi's daughter was harmed. Her father, with whom she shared a psychic connection, was furious. The girl had been showing the Alliance members the sacred cultivation grounds. She accidentally learned that 4 of them should have died 10 years ago. Knowing the plot, Lihua immediately realized something was wrong. Double tap, like, comment for more episodes. At this moment, Zhuge Xian was about to lead everyone away. But they noticed Master Jingxian fiddling with some stones nearby. The girl also looked at the master quizzically. The next second, she heard strange words. Ajura hopes all beings can achieve nirvana, bearing the mission to burn oneself to evolve the world. Everything has karmic consequences. Only blood is the purest. He developed the Zhen Fa Wanchong. Lihua, standing nearby, recoiled in fear. Zhuge Xian also wore a bewildered expression, looking at the reactions of the others. Lihua realized that only she could hear these words. She silently encouraged herself. It's okay. Yin Ling and grandfather are here. With that, she abandoned the group and turned to leave. But as she passed the master, she froze. No one can enter this place. The little lion will remain here for the evolution trial. Lihua stumbled back 2 steps and asked what was going on. The others clamored to leave. But Jingxian clapped his hands together, and the 4 people around him seemed to become entranced, as if possessed. Zhuge Xian watched bewildered. Lihua, however, sensed danger. She called out to Yinling, but only silence answered. It was clear that this area had been isolated, transformed into a separate space. Dash drew his weapon, but he didn't attack Li Hua. Instead, he held it to his own throat. Only then did Zhuge Xian realize he intended to self-destruct. He would take them all with him. Li Hua, desperate to survive, could only flee into the forbidden zone. In that instant, Tianma lost track of his daughter. He set down his scroll and looked towards a mountain cave. At the training grounds, the shockwave from the explosion rippled outwards. Miss Li Hua is still inside, someone cried. After inspection, they confirmed it was a self-detonation. Hong Lian, his face flushed and sweating, was consumed with worry. But sensing the lingering chill in the air, Si declared that Li Hua was still alive. The question now was how to rescue her. The demonic sect's young mistress, who had only just begun to enjoy a peaceful life, was once again in mortal danger. Tianma, learning of his daughter's plight, rushed to the cultivation cave. He would see who dared to harm Li Hua in his territory. Upon seeing their leader, everyone present immediately bowed and reported on Li Hua's situation. Ignoring the modern-day instructions to double-tap and leave comments like "get rich quick" and "instant win," Tianma demanded answers. He coldly asked why they had failed to protect his daughter. Yinling explained that there were no signs of murderous intent or forced entry around the cave. Could it be an isolation barrier? Anwei wondered. One strong enough to deceive even my eyes. He examined the mountainside. It seems the only way to save her is to open the entrance. I could melt the entrance with my fiery tiger divine art, Anwei offered. But where could Li Hua take shelter from the intense heat? No one knew the layout of the cave. The cave is a labyrinth, another elder worried. If she gets lost, she'll be in even greater danger. Yu, standing nearby, listened to the elder's concerns. His heart heavy with conflict. Should he speak up? But if he didn't, Li Hua's life would be at risk. Finally, he stepped forward. I know of a hiding place within the cave, he revealed. Take the first fork to the right, and there's an open space. Tianma was stunned. How did his disciple know about that hidden chamber? Had he been there before? It was a secret escape route Tianma had prepared for himself. Now it seemed that plan was ruined. But for Li Hua's sake, he had no regrets. Tianma now understood why his disciple spent so much time in secluded cultivation. He looked at Yu, who showed no sign of remorse. I will only leave after Li Hua is safe, Tianma declared. Yu readily agreed. Tianma placed his hand on the entrance to the cultivation cave and called out to his daughter. Inside, Li Hua's situation was dire. She was covered in wounds. With each cough, she spat up crimson blood. Even in her weakened state, she worried about Zhuge Xian. She learned that he suspected the demonic sect was behind the attack, orchestrating everything to manipulate her. Li Hua argued that if her father were responsible, he wouldn't have put Zhuge Xian in danger as well. But there was no time for such arguments. Together, she and Zhuge Xian searched for a way out. Looking at the collapsed entrance, they wondered if escape was even possible. Li Hua, who had only recently found her family, despaired that fate would cruelly snatch away her newfound happiness. Losing contact with his daughter once more, Tianma's rage threatened to consume him, nearly pushing him over the edge into the demonic path. He was jolted back by the faint sensation of Li Hua's icy hand gesture. His daughter was waiting for him. He couldn't afford to lose control. Ignoring the modern-day prompts to double-tap for protection and "watch me eat black garlic live," Li Hua traced the cave wall, thinking of her gentle father, the handsome hero, and his doting grandfathers. He absolutely cannot give up. He must survive. Just then, a girl suddenly sensed her father's call. Hearing the sound, she looked around. Zhuge Xian was startled. Could this be sound transmission? Li Hua suddenly understood. No wonder she could hear Jingshuan's voice. Hearing her father's words of concern, she shook her head excitedly, indicating she wasn't hurt. Outside the cave, the heavenly demon told his daughter to retreat to safety, but the boat was furthest away. He would then melt the cave entrance and rescue Li Hua. The girl knew instantly that this was one of the hero's escape routes. Back then, Yu and Lian had relied on a map to escape after a month. But now, without a map, she couldn't help but feel panicked and uneasy. Remembering her father's firm words, Li Hua regained her confidence. I believe in you, her father said, moving away from the cave entrance. But Zhuge Xian hesitated. The girl, with a serious expression, told him to trust her father. Startled, the young master quickly left with Li Hua. Following the instructions, Zhuge Xian spoke up, saying they seemed to be going in circles. Interrupting him, the girl insisted on trusting her father's words and continued forward. Even with inner turmoil, she feigned confidence, even asking him if he was too scared. Only then did she notice Zhuge Xian's pale face. The wound at his waist had soaked through his clothes. The man reassured her, telling her he was fine and to keep hiding. But reality hit hard. He couldn't stop the bleeding. To save him, Li Hua chose to transfer her internal energy to him, all the while comforting Zhuge Xian. They would definitely be rescued, she assured him. The man scoffed. He wasn't even as composed as a little girl. But he didn't know that Li Hua's heart was also filled with panic. Just as they were about to continue, Zhuge Xian collapsed, telling the girl not to catch him. He was the only witness in this world, and she couldn't let anything happen to him. But the burning sensation of the flame divine art was already upon them. Li Hua took out her white dagger, preparing to fight back. With the sound of an explosion and the drain of her energy, the girl collapsed to the ground. Knowing that staying put would only lead to death, her only escape route was to break through the ground. But could she really break through such thick ground? Just then, the necklace the hero had given her emitted a warm glow. Remembering her master's teachings during training, she suddenly grasped the true meaning of the white flower divine realm. Her hand moved with her heart, executing the technique. The floor instantly shattered. At this moment, the connection with her father outside was severed. The heavenly demon, the enemy of the martial arts world, had burned his own daughter to death with his own hands. Grief-stricken, Li Hua's loving father descended into madness. He couldn't fathom that he had harmed his own daughter. He couldn't bear to imagine his daughter crying out to him for help amidst the flames, pleading with him, "Daddy, it's so hot." And all of this was caused by his own flames. Watching their leader succumb to madness, everyone quickly formed a defensive circle. The weakened hero looked at the fallen ice flower. His heart stirred. Picking up the ice flower, he struggled forward and alerted the leader. "Miss is still alive. She's waiting for you to save her." These words jolted the crazed man back to his senses. His daughter was still alive. He couldn't give up. Inside the cave, Li Hua opened her eyes as if hearing her father's call. But the priority now was to recover her internal energy and get out as quickly as possible. After checking her condition, she found that her energy had almost fully recovered. However, a stinging pain in her leg caught her attention. What was this bruise? Judging by the size of the mark, it didn't seem to be Zhuge Xian's. And where was he? She remembered breaking through the floor before she lost consciousness. So she had fallen from above. But looking up, she couldn't find the hole. Who brought her here? The thought made her instinctively reach for her waist on guard. That's when she realized Baiyu was gone. She knew she couldn't panic. She still needed to find Zhuge Xian. Just then, a small boy in simple clothes appeared. Li Hua immediately asked who he was. The boy tilted his head, looking equally puzzled. Seeing this, Li Hua thought to herself, could he be the legendary ginseng doll? And the aura around him, it's not human. She voiced her suspicion. The boy shook his head repeatedly, indicating he wasn't human. Li Hua extended a friendly hand, inviting him closer. But the boy fiddled with the pouch at his waist, hesitant. Li Hua reassured him that she was a friend. Only then did he slowly approach. Gently stroking the boy's soft hair, she complimented him on how cute he was. But she had no idea how shocking the boy's true identity was. This soft, adorable boy had appeared in the forbidden grounds of the demonic sect. Even knowing he wasn't human, Li Hua still wanted to befriend him. The boy seemed to want her as his companion. The two, meeting for the first time, introduced themselves. But the boy said he didn't have a name. Li Hua said she understood. Things like him usually didn't have names. Then she asked if he had brought her here. After receiving an affirmative nod, she smiled her thanks. She continued, asking how long he'd been in the cave. He answered that he couldn't remember. The thought of the child spending such a long time alone made her reach out and gently rub his head. "It must have been lonely," she murmured. The boy said he had been sleeping, but was woken up by shaking. Li Hua knew it was the explosion. Immediately, she pulled a persimmon from her pocket and offered it apologetically. "Do you want to eat this?" The child opened his mouth and took a bite. His eyes lit up at the taste. Watching him enjoy the persimmon, Li Hua quickly gave him the rest. Then she asked about Zhuge Xian and Baiyu. Receiving a confirming nod, she excitedly hugged the boy, asking him to take her to them. This made the ginseng doll's face flush. Li Hua, however, was thinking that although the boy seemed icy, he was truly beautiful, except for his pointed teeth, which looked like a monster's. The thought of monsters suddenly reminded her of the pearl and the giant serpent within. Her first stroke of luck had been finding the 1,000-year-old giant python in a cave. Looking at the luminous pearl above, it hit her. Could this child be the giant python? Trembling, she asked the boy what he truly was. The child's single word, python, sent a jolt of terror through Li Hua. Heavens, she had just been petting a giant python's head. The boy, oblivious to her bunkoi collapse/breakdown, calmly continued eating the persimmon. Li Hua nervously asked why he had brought her here. The child replied matter-of-factly, "I woke up hungry." Li Hua didn't understand why he hadn't brought Zhuge Xian as well. The python casually said he didn't eat stale food. So, had he brought her back to eat her? This supposed 1,000-year-old serpent demon then asked Li Hua to rub his head. Realizing the boy saw her as food, Li Hua desperately searched for an escape. To avoid being eaten, she began to try and deceive him. First, she claimed she wouldn't taste good. Besides, she had just given him a persimmon. But the boy's simple reply, "I'm still hungry," stopped her heart. Quickly changing the subject, she asked what he usually ate. He replied swiftly, "Anything as long as it's fresh." The girl, Li Hua, was startled. Wasn't this forcing her into a dead end? She quickly opened her pouch and frantically searched inside. She saw the spirit bone given to her by Grandpa Duong. He had told her that as long as she dripped her blood onto it and someone else drank it, that person would obey her every command. She had no choice but to try it. Taking out the vial, she began to persuade the boy. If he insisted on eating something, he could try a little first. After all, one could only know if something tasted good or bad after trying it. But if it tasted bad, she would take him to find the way out. Of course, she wouldn't help him for nothing. Once they were out, she would take him to find lots of delicious dried persimmons. Inwardly, she hoped to fool the child. After all, he could find persimmons himself. He didn't need her help at all. After a moment's thought, Xiumong readily agreed, but he demanded that the girl rub his head. He liked the feeling. Li Hua naturally wouldn't refuse. She immediately rubbed his head a few times, then dripped her blood into the vial and handed it to him. Seeing him swallow it in one gulp, she nervously asked how it tasted. After receiving the reply that it tasted strange, she wondered if it had worked. She said, "Sit." The boy immediately crouched down on all fours. She continued, "Stay." The child, like a dog, offered his hand. Li Hua breathed a long sigh of relief, finally letting go of her worries. She even boasted that from now on, she was his master, and the boy would obey her commands unconditionally. Was a 2,000-year-old giant python so easy to subdue? The transmigrated heroine was thriving in the martial arts world. Not only did she have impressive martial arts skills, but her charm also captivated the righteous male protagonist, making his heart secretly yearn for her. Even a 1,000-year-old giant python had become her underling. Now, this underling clearly needed further training. He not only ate everything the girl had, but he also begged for head rubs and acted coy, doing everything she asked. He even wanted to swallow the girl whole as food. Although he had been tricked into drinking the spirit bone and forced to acknowledge her as his master, the boy didn't even understand what master meant. Seeing his confused look, Li Hua could only force an explanation, saying it meant very powerful. The boy frowned at this. That's not right, he thought. Then he suddenly lunged at the girl, demonstrating that he was much stronger than Li Hua. The girl nervously reiterated that she was the master, so he just needed to obey. Having successfully fooled the 1,000-year-old giant python, Li Hua instantly puffed up with pride. Now, she and God were on equal footing. This little simpleton was so easy to deceive. The boy didn't care. Master is master, he thought. As a monster who kept his promises, all he needed were dried persimmons to eat. He then led the heroine to find the hole. On the way, hearing the sound of dripping water, Li Hua stopped the boy, saying she wanted to drink some water before continuing. The simpleton, thinking the girl was thirsty, was about to offer her his blood from his arm. The heroine quickly stopped him. The child was already so short. Losing blood would stun his growth. Seeing the boy's annoyed expression, she quickly comforted him. Unexpectedly, the simpleton instantly transformed into a giant python, boasting about his power. Lihua was frozen in terror. She shakily told the giant python to return to his human form. The simpleton chuckled darkly. I win, he thought. He was the overlord of the mountains. Meanwhile, outside, the heavenly demon touched the mountain wall and channeled his internal energy. He suddenly sensed Li Hua's presence. The male protagonist was worried sick about her outside, while the girl was gaining a huge opportunity inside the cave, increasing her internal energy and gaining a follower, all at the same time. Meanwhile, the worried hero outside had no idea the young mistress had a big surprise in store for him. In a flash, she appeared before him. The elder stared at the python in front of him in astonishment. Then, with a beaming smile, the girl greeted everyone. Yu Yulian was also startled by this scene. Li Hua quickly slid down from the little snake, apologizing for causing everyone to worry. Du Wang hurried forward to check on the young mistress. The next moment, the sound of a body hitting the ground caught their attention. He angrily moved to deal with the person who had bullied the young mistress. The girl grabbed her grandfather's hand to stop him. She explained that this person had helped her. The elder's anger immediately turned to concern for his granddaughter. They vowed to stay by the young mistress's side from now on. Yu Yulian also looked at the young mistress with a happy expression, but when the girl looked at him, he turned away, feigning indifference. As expected, Li Hua misunderstood. Just then, she remembered her father, who was standing nearby. Seeing her bewildered expression, he wondered how he could help. Her father grumbled and told her to come with him, instructing her to be obedient. Meanwhile, the little snake nudged Zhuge Xian. Innocently, it followed its master. The elders worried about the young mistress. They blamed the boy for the situation. The little simpleton felt a shiver of unease. It turned and glared at them before continuing to follow its master. But in the next moment, the hero grabbed its small hand. The little snake didn't understand why he was stopping it. Yu Yulian asked coldly, "The master you speak of, is it the young mistress?" It was an obvious question. The hero immediately asked why he was being questioned. The little simpleton retorted, "Why should I tell you? This is between my master and me." It then caught up with the girl and intimately shared a medicinal cake. Yu Yulian watched coldly, telling himself not to care about the young mistress. It's enough that she returned alive. What the hero didn't know was that a rivalry for affection had quietly begun. A single conspiracy unexpectedly brought the young mistress continuous gains. During her time in the cave, Li Hua not only grasped the essence of the white flower divine sword, but also became the master of the 1,000-year-old snake. Crucially, the little snake was incredibly loyal. Knowing his master was thirsty, the little snake immediately offered his own blood for her to drink. Li Hua immediately refused out of concern, although the little snake transformed into a giant python to demonstrate his strength. The young mistress still refused this particular offering. The little snake was helpless, but determined to ensure his master wouldn't go thirsty. He led the girl to a secret place and showed her the water dripping from the stone wall, telling her it was safe to drink. Li Hua curiously asked what it was. "Won't my stomach hurt if I drink this in this dry cave? But your strength will increase, and you'll be able to speak." The girl dipped a finger in and tasted it. Feeling her internal energy rapidly increase, she was overjoyed. "Isn't this the divine spring water?" Right in front of the little snake, she used Yu Yulian's bottle to collect some. "I used Yu Yulian's last time, so this time I'll return the favor." Seeing that there was a little left, she licked it up with her tongue. Such a good thing can't be wasted. The little snake was speechless at this sight. He reminded his master not to lick stones. Li Hua responded, "Are you trying to embarrass me?" Then she asked how long it would take to find Zhuge Xian. The little simpleton thought for a moment. "Based on your master's pace, half a day. If it were me, I could get there instantly." Hearing this, the girl beamed. "Let's set off now, riding my pet giant python." Outside, the heavenly demon had managed to open the cave entrance, but his daughter's aura seemed to be blocked by something. He had to go inside and see. Seeing this, the hero stepped forward and offered his assistance, but the cult leader flatly refused. As the young sect master, "Your primary duty is to protect our sect," the elders within the school echoed in agreement. Lien knew angrily declared in Cantonese that he was the one who provided the route inside. "Next," he barked. A gigantic python appeared before everyone. His precious daughter had been abducted. The heavenly demon, her father, was furious. He unleashed a fierce spiritual attack. attack. Unwittingly, this played right into the boy's hands, allowing him to remain by his master's side. After escaping the cave, Xiao Henin and Li Hua left with him. Arriving at the courtyard, the three sat together. Li Hua nervously looked at her father. She explained that she couldn't abandon Zhuge Xian. He was the only witness to the incident. For the sake of the demonic sect's future, she had to save him. But this action put Li Hua in danger. That's why the heavenly demon, who adored his daughter, was so angry. Li Hua understood her recklessness. Lowering her head, she apologized to her father. The heavenly demon, however, told her his anger wasn't directed at her. He was angry at his own powerlessness. Though he desperately wanted to drag Zhuge Xian out and flog him, he refrained for his daughter's sake. His eyes narrowed as he asked, "Who is that boy?" Xiao Henin, however, was oblivious to the tension. He was focused on one thing, eating. He hadn't eaten his fill in the cave and intended to make up for it now. Li Hua laughed and introduced him as the giant python from the mountains, but now her underling. She then reminded Xiao Henin that he'd had enough. The boy grumbled, protesting that she had promised he could eat until he was full. The heavenly demon, observing from the side, hadn't detected the scent of human flesh on the python. Then it struck him. The python must have intended to capture his daughter. The thought ignited a surge of killing intent. The intensity of this aura made Xiao Henin's grip on his persimmon loosen. He fearfully stood and backed away. Li Hua, not understanding, asked, "Little brother, what's wrong?" Xiao Henin looked at the man with terror. "He's scary." Li Hua, with a touch of pride, introduced her father and told Xiao Henin not to be afraid. "As my subordinate, you'll be safe." The python was speechless. Hadn't she taken him as a pet? Now he was a subordinate? Hearing this, the heavenly demon withdrew his killing intent. He had been frantic with worry, while Li Hua had been playing with her pet python in a cave. It seemed his daughter was quite extraordinary. He was burning with anxiety outside, while his daughter was having a grand time playing with her pet in a cave. But to subdue a 1,000-year-old python clearly demonstrated Li Hua's unique abilities. He immediately asked how she had managed to tame the giant python. Li Hua explained that it was thanks to the small bottle given to her by Grandpa Duwang. Upon hearing this, the heavenly demon instantly understood it was Ling Gu. But having just probed the python's internal energy, he realized it had already reached 3 Jiazi cycles. The Ling Gu wouldn't last much longer. He instructed Li Hua to use Yin Ling to establish a name and form a contract. Li Hua, however, intended to release Xiao Henin, and therefore wasn't planning on naming him. The heavenly demon didn't interfere with his daughter's decision. Instead, he informed Li Hua that he would need him as a witness at tomorrow's Elder Council meeting. Li Hua readily agreed. Looking at the adorable Xiao Henin, the heavenly demon's lips curved into a smile. He opened his arms, beckoning him closer. Sensing the increase in Li Hua's internal power, he inquired about it. Li Hua immediately explained that she had grasped the true meaning of the white flower, divine sword in the cave. Hearing this, the heavenly demon looked at her with tenderness and concern. He confessed his fear of never seeing her again. It was only then that Li Hua realized it wasn't just her who had suffered. Her father had also been tormented. The heavenly demon, however, comforted his daughter, telling her that just the thought of her being hurt caused him immense pain. Li Hua repeatedly assured him there wouldn't be a next time, but implored her father to also be careful. He looked at the girl who cared so much for him. This was the first time anyone had told him not to get hurt. Outsiders only saw his cold, hard exterior. The world marveled at his demonic power. But in all of creation, the only one who could truly hurt him was this girl. That's why he told Li Hua not to get hurt. He wouldn't be able to bear the worry and pain of her injury. The entire demonic sect treasured her like a precious jewel. Not only had she captured the heart of the ancient, bewitching male lead, but now even a 1,000-year-old python was clinging to her. Learning that her grandfather's spiritual bones couldn't actually contain the boy, Li Hua, never one for greed, had already planned to set the little simpleton free. Even though the boy possessed formidable inner strength, and her father had offered a method to restrain him, she stuck to her original decision. Seeing this, the demonic lord didn't press the matter and departed. Li Hua finally relaxed, relieved that her father hadn't scolded her for acting on her own. The little simpleton wondered aloud, is the demonic lord also master's subordinate? Li Hua explained that he was her father. The boy was even more puzzled. Why would her father be by her side? Wasn't it natural for a father to be with his child? He then asked the little simpleton where his father was. The boy's reply, "In my mother's belly," struck Li Hua like a bolt of lightning, leaving her stunned. She blurted out, "Did your mother eat your father?" Receiving an affirmative nod. She was momentarily at a loss for words, unsure whether to express sympathy or inquire if he tasted good. The little simpleton, however, declared that the demonic lord was the most powerful person he'd ever met. But the way he obeyed her so readily made him think he was a rival. Li Hua corrected him, saying it wasn't obedience, but love. Seeing the boy's confused expression, she continued to explain, "It's wanting to take on the other person's pain, always sharing each other's joys, sorrows, and anger." The little simpleton exclaimed, "Isn't that a sickness?" Then, without further thought, he declared he didn't want to compete with anyone. Li Hua, surprised by the boy's apparent competitive spirit, put her hands on her hips and announced that she was now releasing him, her little disciple. The little simpleton cried out in alarm, "Master is making me leave?" In the next instant, he refused. Li Hua explained that it was fate. The boy, unmoved, insisted on staying. He asked, "If I get hurt, will Master pet me?" Receiving confirmation, he grinned. "Then I definitely won't leave." Li Hua was speechless. This guy was just like White Fang. Now she had no choice but to name him Black Fong. The contract immediately took effect. Touching the mark, Black Fong smiled mischievously. He could stay by Master's side forever. The powerful snake demon to remain by the side of the pampered young mistress, transformed into an obedient pet, seeking cuddles. As Li Hua walked back to her room with Black Fong, she noticed everyone gathered up ahead. Just as she was wondering what was going on, the sect members, seeing their young mistress arrive, rushed forward, praising Li Hua's prowess. They claimed she had easily repelled a 1,000-year-old giant python. Li Hua was taken aback. Where had this rumor sprung from? Then, seeing the smug looks on her grandfather's faces, she understood who the culprits were. Resigned, she shook her head repeatedly. It wasn't like that at all. Meanwhile, Black Fong was quite displeased. What were these people doing, constantly hovering around Master? Should he just... He then promptly transformed into a giant horse, sharing his plan with Li Hua. Li Hua, of course, disagreed. These are all good people who loved her. Black Fong seized the opportunity to propose that from now on, Master should only have him as her subordinate. "I want to eat lots and lots more persimmon cakes." Li Hua sighed, thinking this guy was just as greedy as Baya. Now, she wasn't just Ya's inner energy reservoir, but also his persimmon cake pantry. As Li Hua lamented her fate, Xiao Hanin led her away. Ruiling, upon seeing her mistress again, burst into tears. The young girl also opened her arms wide, looking at her as if she were a mother. The boy watched the two recount their fortunate survival. Inwardly, however, he was filled with regret. Everywhere he went, someone was vying for his master's attention. Seeing the girl's joy, he could only suppress his resentment. The wet nurse, observing the young mistress's thin face, asked if this was part of the alliance's scheme. Li Hua explained that the situation was complicated, but it was indeed related to them. The truth of the matter still needed further investigation. After all, of the alliance members, only Zhuge Xian had survived. Ruiling, upon hearing this, was furious. If it weren't for that man, the young mistress would have. He should have been drawn and quartered. She then helped the girl change into new clothes. Meanwhile, Li Hua wondered why the male lead, Dai Na, hadn't come see her. Even Li Hua, the darling of the demonic sect, couldn't resolve the conflict between the male lead and Xiao Henin. She could only mediate between the two. Back in her bedroom, the girl immediately asked her wet nurse about Yu Yulian's situation, only to learn that he was in confinement within the palace. Li Hua couldn't understand. What could someone so dedicated to cultivation have done wrong? Ruiling explained that it seemed he had entered the forbidden grounds. According to the sect's rules, no one except the sect leader and the young mistress was allowed to enter. The girl recalled the plot from the book. After coming of age, the male lead had escaped from a cave, and this time, the crisis had exposed his presence because he had saved her. Guilt instantly flooded her heart. He had saved her, yet her father had punished him. The wet nurse consoled the young mistress, saying it was the sect's rule. Since it was a rule, it had to be obeyed. Besides, she added, the sect leader will surely reconsider the punishment for your sake. But Li Hua still felt guilty. She then said she was full and wanted a rest. Seeing someone already in the bed, Ruiling asked if the young mistress wanted to sleep with him. The girl asked, perplexed, "Isn't that allowed?" The answer was of course no, but Xiao Henin was already asleep. Seeing this, the wet nurse went to wake him. But no matter how she shook him, Heiyu remained fast asleep, making Ruiling suspect he was feigning sleep. Li Hua explained that he might be too tired from carrying her earlier. Seeing this, the wet nurse could only let him be. She warned that it absolutely couldn't happen again tomorrow, then bid the young mistress good night. Once Rueling left, Li Hua put on a commoner's expression, packed up some food and presumably some medicine, changed her clothes, and took Baiyu with her. Just as she was about to leave, Xiao Hanin woke up and saw her. He asked his master where she was going. Seeing the bundle in Li Hua's arms, he suspected it was persimmon cakes. The girl denied it, saying it wasn't, and that she was going for a walk. Then, remembering she didn't know where Yu Yulian was, she took out a necklace and asked Heya if he could find a male lead. Xiao Hanin sniffed the necklace and recognized his master's scent, along with another unpleasant odor. Li Hua immediately told Heya to take her to this person. The boy obediently transformed and carried his master off. Meanwhile, Yu Yulian was by the window, lost in thought, seemingly uncompetitive and unassuming. The male lead from the book hadn't thought he cared about the young mistress, but seeing her tame a 1,000-year-old python as a follower, he suddenly felt a pang of jealousy and anxiety, realizing that if he didn't try harder, he would lose his standing. Li Hua, feeling sorry for Yu Yulian's confinement because of her, went to find him, bringing food and Xiao Henin along. The male lead was about to leave the window, but a noise outside made him turn back. The girl's question, "May I come in?" made the corners of his mouth curl into a slight smile. With a twinkle in his eyes, he replied, "Of course," and stepped forward to help the young lady down. He inquired about her unusual mount. Upon learning that she had tamed the giant python and named it Blacktooth, his smile faltered. Li Hua explained that her father had made her take it as a companion. The simple-minded Blacktooth looked at the male lead defiantly. Yu Yulian also glared at him with undisguised disgust. The girl, noticing the tension between them, sighed, thinking that if she hadn't used the Duke's oil, Blacktooth wouldn't be ignoring the male lead. She then scolded Blacktooth for his rudeness. Yu Yulian, standing nearby, watched them holding hands, feeling a pang of jealousy. Li Hua explained that she was holding Blacktooth's hand to prevent him from running away, but as the male lead turned to leave, she released her companion's hand. She thanked Yu Yulian for her gift, explaining that the necklace had saved his life, but the male lead had been punished because of her. Yu Yulian feigned indifference, claiming she hadn't done it for the young lady. Seeing through his pretense, the girl asked how long his confinement would last. Learning that it would be until her birthday, she immediately begged Yu Yulian to teach her archery. The male lead was startled, claiming he didn't know how, but Li Hua insisted that he did. She knew from a book that Yu Yulian would practice archery in the moonlight, mourning his deceased mother, Wu Jian. It was a bittersweet memory for him, and she hoped that on her birthday, practicing archery might offer him some comfort. Unable to bear the young lady's disappointment, the male lead agreed, but he warned her to stay out of trouble until then. Blacktooth, observing their closeness, felt a surge of annoyance, but could only glare angrily. Yu Yulian, usually so aloof, was the beloved, pampered daughter of the demonic cult. But Blacktooth's arrival threatened his position as the sole object of her affection. Between these two rivals, who would ultimately win the young lady's heart? Feeling guilty, Li Hua brought food to the male lead, only to be scolded by Yu Yulian. He had warned her to stay away from Zhuge Xian, but she had been beguiled by his charm. Li Hua quickly explained that Zhuge Xian was the only witness to the incident and therefore important to the demonic cult. But the male lead dismissed this, saying that anyone who put the young lady in danger was unimportant. Touched by his concern, she promised it wouldn't happen again. Yu Yulian, however, knew she didn't mean it. He sighed inwardly, realizing he would have to keep a closer watch on her, while Li Hua pondered how to give Zhuge Xian the antidote. Blacktooth asked if the man was her subordinate. Li Hua denied it. The simple creature then declared his intention to eat him. The girl quickly intervened. Blacktooth, scowling, took Li Hua's hand and leaned against her, seeking comfort. He then asked her to pat his head. She readily complied, oblivious to Yu Yulian's icy glare. Blacktooth then proceeded to taunt Yu Yulian, boasting about having Li Hua as his protector, the strongest person in the world. Li Hua was mortified by his audacity. Sensing her disapproval, Blacktooth looked away sheepishly. But he couldn't resist another jab, bragging about how Li Hua fed him persimmons, and patted his head, and only his head, and wouldn't let the demonic cult bother him. Seeing this, the girl sighed. This silly little Heyu was so childish. Yu Yulian was much more mature. He surely wouldn't stoop to Heiya's level. But Yu Yulian, watching the increasingly smug Junma, also laughed, admitting he'd also received a treat. He was shocked. That's impossible. Yu Yulian, now gloating, declared, Miss Li Hua gave it to me first. Hearing this, the crestfallen He turned a pleading gaze towards Li Hua. Li Hua, startled, felt a sudden pang of foreboding. The simple act of giving a persimmon cake had sparked a fierce rivalry between her companions. She was further pressured by the little snake demon, who insisted he was her only follower. Yu Yulian, not to be outdone, joined the competition, leaving Li Hua blushing and flustered. Seeing this, He furiously charged forward. An intimate gesture like head-patting belonged only to him. But Yu Yulian countered, Miss Li Hua already patted my head. You're only second best. And the persimmon cake? Miss Li Hua fed me one long ago, so I'll always be ahead of you. This enraged Heya, making him tremble with fury. Then, remembering his 1,000 years of cultivation, he scoffed, I'm stronger than you. Li Hua doesn't need you anymore. Just leave. The two were on the verge of a clash when Li Hua intervened. You're not even on the same level, yet you're about to fight over something so trivial. What are you two arguing about? And Heya, I told you not to cause trouble. This left you feeling utterly wronged. Li Hua also rebuked Yu Yulian. Why are you arguing with a child? But pythons and humans grow differently. Just because he's small doesn't mean he's always right. You have to understand, he's still a child. Yu Yulian, ashamed, lowered his head. Seeing his remorse, Li Hua took his hand to comfort him. This, however, did not go unnoticed by Heya. He demanded coldly, Li Hua, why are you holding his hand? My hand is nice to hold too. Why won't you hold mine? Li Hua could only look at him with exasperation. Seeing that Li Hua truly wasn't going to hold his hand, Heya angrily declared, I hate you. He transformed into his snake form and slithered away. Li Hua, rushing after him, picked up his clothes. He can't run around naked. She then brought out some carefully prepared food. Smiling, she said, you must be hungry. Let's eat first. Although she had already eaten, she wouldn't let that arrogant python have it. After he finished eating, Li Hua casually took out a jade bottle and offered it to him. Drink this. It's good for you. Yu Yulian, assuming it was a medicinal elixir from the sect elders, gratefully accepted Li Hua's offer. He had no idea that this decision would pave the way for him to become the future grandmaster of the martial world. The seemingly harmless little snake demon was vying with Yu Yulian for Li Hua's affection. Unexpectedly, Li Hua then gave the spatial stone from his cave to Yu Yulian. After drinking it, Yu Yulian looked at Li Hua in surprise. Miss Li Hua, why are you giving me this cultivation treasure? Li Hua smiled and explained, I owed you this. Even though it was a long time ago, I still wanted to express my gratitude. Yu Yulian was unsure how to react. A blood feud existed between their families. How could he accept her kindness so readily? But he had already consumed the potion. He could only temporarily put aside everything and focus on cultivating. Li Hua sat quietly beside him, watching over him. Surrounded by a fluorescent glow, his aura grew lighter. A moment later, Yu Yulian opened his eyes, finding his vital essence strengthened. He voiced his lingering doubts, but the girl responded with her desire for fair competition. I hope we can be amicable rivals, she said, so don't feel pressured. I wouldn't want to be indebted to a competitor. But the vengeance for his parents' deaths wasn't something that could be simply summed up as competition. Their rivalry might one day escalate to taking each other's lives. You'll regret this later, he warned. Li Hua, however, remained resolute, vowing never to regret her decision. He wondered how someone so seemingly fragile could possess such unwavering conviction. If only she weren't that man's daughter. The chasm between them remained unbridgeable. Using the late hour as an excuse, he urged her to return home. Li Hua, captivated by his beauty, started and hurried away. But before she left, she paused involuntarily, offering a final farewell, confirming his departure. The next day, she finally caught the dark creature that had been running amok. The boy protested his innocence, claiming he hadn't caused any trouble. So why is Master scolding me? He asked. Li Hua, however, threatened him. Humans can't run around naked. If you cause any more trouble, you can't stay with me, she warned. Unless you promise to be obedient from now on. Seeing her stern expression, Heya frantically nodded in agreement. She then showed him a video as a reward, infuriating the elder who had come to treat Li Hua's injuries. Is he limbless? The elder fumed. How dare he make the young mistress wait on him? But when facing Li Hua, the elder's expression softened into one of loving concern. However, the elder's murderous glare sent a shiver down the boy's spine. Why was there always someone vying for his master's attention? In front of everyone, Heiyu was asked about his molting period. Lihua simply wanted to let him go, recalling their encounter in the cave. The events in the cave foreshadowed the impending storm. The elder, treating Lihua, looked at her bruised shoulder with heartache. Lihua, however, bravely insisted she wasn't afraid of the pain. With tears welling in his eyes, her grandfather quickly finished the treatment. While waiting for the needles to be removed, Lihua asked him if there was an antidote for the poison he had given her earlier. She had given the poison to Heiya for self-preservation, forcing him to stay with her. The elder was puzzled. Spiritual creatures were usually treasured. Why would she want to let him go? He glanced at the boy. Heiya, mistaking the look for an interest in his persimmon cake, quickly hid the treat. The little brat was truly infuriating. Lihua knew she couldn't keep him. She couldn't put Heiya's life in danger. Explaining to her grandfather that she was afraid of snakes and therefore wanted him to leave, she claimed it wasn't poison and thus didn't need an antidote. But why couldn't Heiya leave? Fearing the young mistress's displeasure, the elder instinctively offered an explanation about imprinting. The more powerful the spiritual creature, the more susceptible they were to it. But even Heiya didn't know what imprinting was. He didn't know when it had happened, let alone how to undo it. Perhaps you were the first person he saw, the elder suggested, so he's attached to you like a mother. Of course, if you truly dislike it, it should change after his next molting period. Lihua excitedly asked when he would molt. Eyafronith, I'm not telling you, he declared. The elder sighed. He won't tell you, young mistress. Molting is when he's most vulnerable. After molting, he'll undergo a complete transformation. Even his personality might change. It seems Dajin's tastes have changed. I wonder if, after Heiya, she'll become a gold-guzzling beast. The girl, showered with affection by the master of the possession sect, has inadvertently inherited the other half of a dark power. He'd been suspicious about the disappearance of the martial arts disciples 10 years ago. Now, after this recent incident, he discovered they had all been killed. After the Poison King removed the needles and prepared to accompany the young miss to the meeting hall, Lihua inquired, "Is there a concept of Ajura in Buddhism?" The Poison King, puzzled, admitted he'd also heard of it for the first time. So, there really was something wrong with the Grandmaster election, he mused. Lihua decided to find a few stones and replicate the formation from that time. Perhaps father will know what this is, she thought. But when her grandfather understood Lihua's intention, he chuckled and called out to his disciple with a surge of playful energy. The adorable young miss needs 10 stones. Hurry and gather them for her. Although Lihua insisted she could manage on her own, the elder worriedly took her small hand. The stones are so sharp. What if you cut yourself? Since you're deeply injured today, grandfather will make an exception and carry you, he said, feigning reluctance. But his eyes betrayed an intense eagerness, and Lihua readily played along, clinging to him. Arriving at the meeting hall, Lihua greeted everyone warmly. The red-faced elder praised her while pointedly needling the Poison King. For a moment, it seemed the two elders might come to blows, but Lihua knew they were just jesting. She then produced Baya, asking her grandfather why he was shedding his skin. The old man immediately channeled his inner energy to examine him. Baya, displeased, released a chilling blast. The old man chuckled. Bingmu only looks like a plant, he explained. He's actually an animal and hibernates to accumulate energy. Don't worry about his changes. Besides, you've taken excellent care of him. After all, you possess the cold chi, young Mississippi. Reassured, Lihua breathed a sigh of relief. Just then, the cult leader entered, a gentle breeze swirling around him. Carrying Binghua, he informed everyone that the secret chamber was opening. To protect her father, Lihua, for the first time, revealed her knowledge of the unfolding events. Reborn, she already knew the demonic cult was destined for destruction. So, when she learned of the martial arts alliance's impending visit, Lihua volunteered to receive them, hoping to change the martial world's perception of the demonic cult. She hadn't expected to uncover a shocking betrayal. She then brought out the stones she had prepared and began recounting the events in the cave. After Jingxian, the Grandmaster, arranged the stones, she explained. He chanted, "That which cannot be spoken will never be known. That which cannot be seen will be forgotten." He also claimed to bear the burden of purifying all beings. Then, he drew a hidden blade and stabbed himself. I tried to call for Yiling, but I couldn't reach him. Just as Jingxian had said, it was as if we were separated by some unseen force. Except for me and Zhuge Xian, everyone else became like puppets, entranced. A light emanated from Jing Xuan's wound. I instinctively fled, but it was too late to save the others. If I had realized sooner, perhaps I could have saved them. The red-faced elder, his heart aching for her, said, "Young miss, you were barely able to save yourself, yet you rescued Zhuge Xian. That boy, so you mustn't blame yourself too much for the others." Comforted by their words, Li Hua voiced a lingering question. "Do you remember the kidnapping of the righteous sect disciples 10 years ago?" Of course, it was clearly their own negligence, yet they shamelessly blamed us. We may be the demonic cult, but we would never harm children. Cult leader, why does Li Hua bring this up now? Father, don't you find it strange? Everyone involved in this incident, they were all among those who disappeared all those years ago. The young mistress is right. I've been suspicious ever since the famous opera singer was replaced. These children, so promising in their youth, became utterly unremarkable after their abduction. And now, each and every one of them has been added to the roster for this investigation. Could the Shaolin Temple be behind all this? But I've never heard of Shaolin monks practicing illusion magic. Others immediately offered their own perspectives. Just because they aren't known for it doesn't mean they can't do it. The Shaolin Scripture Library holds countless secret texts. It's certainly possible. Still, we have no concrete evidence. Wasn't it the same with the kidnappings 10 years ago? But Father, why would they choose to act when I was present? Perhaps this time their target isn't just the investigators. They might be trying to provoke a war between our sect and the martial arts world. Whoever is behind this must know that if something happened to you, I would lose all reason and unleash a bloodbath. That would give a martial arts alliance justification to declare war. But we won't let those villains have their way this time. We've rescued a crucial witness, seeing his beloved younger sister again. The male protagonist was struck speechless by the adorable girl. Even though they had just seen each other yesterday, he felt a pang of longing he couldn't explain. He realized his own unusual reaction, the burning need for revenge for his parents' deaths, reminding him he couldn't afford to lose himself in these feelings. But if it were just a healthy rivalry, perhaps they could be friends, at least for a while. After all, his true enemy wasn't her. Li Hua, having settled Zhuge Xianho, went to the library to search for information on the Shura. But after scouring the shelves, she only found one thing: a cookbook detailing the previous sect leader's fondness for dishes made with Shura fish. Her search proving fruitless, and with sword practice approaching, she called for Heya to take her away. The young man of the Shur being, one, Shur clan instantly transformed, happily carrying his mistress to the courtyard. But upon seeing Yu Yulian waiting there, he gave him a disgruntled side-eye. The protagonist, noticing this, responded with a dismissive sniff, which immediately sparked Heya's displeasure. "Master," he exclaimed, "I don't want to be anywhere near him." Li Hua didn't want to force him, simply instructing him to return for her later. The protagonist, however, voiced his confusion. "Young mistress, why are you learning from him? If you told the sect leader, surely he could find a better instructor." But Li Hua stood firm in her decision. Yu Yulian could only endure, knowing she didn't have a sword with her. He presented her with one he had prepared. "I thought you might need this, so I brought it." Li Hua looked at the sword in her hands, her face lighting up. "Thank you. I feel like I could dance with this." She immediately began to swing it experimentally. The protagonist stepped in to correct her posture. "You're holding it wrong. Your hand should be like this for a more fluid movement. I've only ever held by you, so I'm not very good at this. Is it still wrong?" Hearing the dejection in her voice, the protagonist offered a reassuring smile. "It's much better now." For a moment, their eyes met, the air thick with unspoken tension. Yu Yulian abruptly stepped back, putting a significant distance between them. He coughed awkwardly. "Remember this grip. I'll give you a demonstration today." With that, he began to move, the sword a blur in his hands, his form powerful and graceful. Li Hua watched, captivated, imagining herself moving with the same effortless elegance. But reality, as it often does, had other plans. His limbs seemed to have minds of their own. The male lead patiently guided them to work in coordination. One taught with meticulous care, the other learned with focused determination. This heartwarming scene, however, deeply stung a darkness lurking in the distance. The 1,000-year-old snake demon, feared by all, was but a treasured pet in the hands of the demonic sect's young mistress, Li Hua. Yet, perhaps she spoiled him too much. The proud, haughty boy now desired Li Hua's affections exclusively. unaware of the future that lay before them. The pair once again visited the library, searching for information on Shura. Despite Li Hua's best efforts, she couldn't find the fourth piece of information. Watching his mistress lie down to rest, Heya, the snake demon, bounded over, eager for a head pat. He whined affectionately. "Mistress has been so busy lately. It's been so long since you've petted me." Li Hua chuckled. "It seems you really do love head pats." Heya beamed, unable to contain his joy, though he didn't quite understand why. He allowed only his mistress to touch him, but in the next moment, jealousy flared within him. He protested, his voice filled with displeasure. "How can you let others touch you, mistress?" Li Hua found herself drowning in a sea of the boy's possessive affection. She finally explained that it was simply how people express their fondness. "Heya," Stillman innocently asked, "then does mistress like me too?" Seeing Li Hua hesitate, he sulked, declaring that he didn't like her either. Yet he added, "But I'll still share my dried persimmons with you. So even though I hate those people touching you, I'll try to understand and tolerate my dislike for them. But I will never understand that guy who taught you the pear dance." Li Hua's face flushed crimson. "We were just practicing swordplay," she stammered, "not some pear dance." But why did Heya harbor such animosity towards Yu, the man who taught her? Even the little snake, demon himself, couldn't fully grasp the reason. He only knew that he didn't just dislike Yu, he wanted him gone. He restrained himself, however, not wanting to cause trouble for his mistress. Li Hua simply dismissed it as childish jealousy. Touched by his protectiveness, she couldn't help but sigh. "Heya, you're such a good, obedient boy." Her words sent a blush creeping up Heya's cheeks. In the next instant, he transformed into his 1,000-meter-long serpent form, his sudden appearance unintentional. He accidentally knocked over a bookshelf, burying Li Hua beneath a cascade of books. Panicked, he quickly shifted back to his human form, choking back tears. "What if mistress is hurt?" he sobbed. "It's all my fault. I'm so sorry, mistress." Li Hua, however, didn't blame him. "It's all right," she reassured him. "Children make mistakes as they grow." As they tidied the scattered books, they stumbled upon a volume about the Shura caves. Li Hua opened the book, only to discover that she couldn't understand a single word. "It seems this is one of those secret scripts they always talk about in martial arts stories," she mused. "I'll need help to decipher it. The demonic sect prioritizes strength," she thought. "I doubt they'll be of much help. But what if Grandpa and the others know something?" She decided it was worth a try. She looked expectantly at her dashing Grandpa Duong. The old man, brimming with confidence, declared, "This is child's play." He took the book from Li Hua, but as he flipped through the pages, his face fell. Determined not to reveal his ignorance, he blustered, "Little children shouldn't be reading these sorts of books." He then feigned incomprehension. "Even Grandpa Duong can't understand it." Thinking of her other grandfathers, Li Hua decided to give up on them. Then, her gaze fell upon the unconscious Zhuge Xianshi, and an idea sparked. "He's from the righteous sect," she thought. "Perhaps he can translate it." But he had been unconscious for 2 weeks. The internal energies cultivated by the demonic and righteous sects were vastly different, making his treatment a slow process. Although Yu cultivated a pure energy, that was their secret. For now, she would have to pin her hopes on her grandfather. Heya, who was eating a persimmon cake off to the side, suddenly felt his magic power scatter. For a moment, he lost control of the treat in his hand, desperate to maintain his esteemed position in his daughter's eyes. The dignified demon sect leader waited patiently at Li Hua's door. Heian, the shadow constantly by the girl's side, watched his master struggle with her research. He excitedly suggested that perhaps their paired dancing lesson could be skipped today. But Li Hua, ever true to her word, firmly refused. Breaking a promise due to fatigue was simply not an option. Furthermore, Yu Yulian was still confined to his quarters. If she broke her promise, he would be all alone. The next moment, she saw her father waiting at the door and ran over to him with delight. After a brief and affectionate exchange, she accepted her father's invitation to dinner. She had intended to invite Heya to join them. But after a pointed look from her father, the boy cowered and declared that he would return to his room to finish his persimmon cake. With that, he fled. Though Li Hua was puzzled by Heya's sudden fear, her father's gentle words soothed her concerns. She happily went to the pavilion for dinner. During the meal, Tian Mo looked at his daughter with concern. "I heard from Shu Ling that you've been spending long hours in the library lately and often forgetting to eat. Look how thin you've become. I've been wondering if this mission has been too much of a burden for you." Hearing the self-reproach in her father's voice, Li Hua quickly reassured him. It hasn't been a burden at all. You don't need to worry about me. But as your father, it troubles me that I can't help you. But father, I want to try to handle this on my own first. And if I need help, I promise I'll tell you. Yin Ba Tian Emo looked at his daughter with a touch of sadness. Li Hua tried to lift his spirits, requested a martial arts manual to give his Zhuge Xian when he awoke. It doesn't need to be anything particularly powerful, she explained. I just want to offer it as a gesture of goodwill. Tian Emo immediately understood his daughter's intentions. Such a small person with such big worries, he thought fondly. After enjoying some quality time with her father, Li Hua hurried off to find Heya, preparing to take her sword and visit Yu Yulian. Lian, the sword gifted by Yu Yulian, lay broken. Heya, seemingly gloating, suggested, Master, perhaps you should just rest today. Meanwhile, Yu Yulian gazed at the sky, a gentle breeze rustling through his long hair. His beautiful face was etched with worry. The young miss is late today, he murmured. Li Hua's simple desire to learn swordplay had sparked a fierce rivalry among the four beautiful men. An unconscious Baya was gently ushered away, hinting that his master's recent obsession with sword practice had caused her to neglect him. The girl stared at the shattered remnants of her sword, furious. She demanded an explanation from Heya. The boy, looking wronged, explained what he had witnessed. When I returned, he said, the sword was already broken. The culprit was Baya, right there on the table. No wonder he hadn't wanted to go out with her today. Why did you do this? She raised at Baya. Why else? He was your only weapon, yet you so carelessly ignored him for that sword. But he's a tree spirit. Can he even feel jealousy? Master, only humans have emotions, you say? How naive. Now that your sword is broken, you won't be able to practice your paired dance, will you? But Li Hua wasn't about to let Baya's transgression go unaddressed. She took Heya with her to apologize to Yu Yulian. Upon learning the truth of the matter, Yu Yulian decided that Li Hua should practice her sword dance with a simple branch. Touched, Baya unconsciously bloomed with icy flowers. Although it was late at night, Li Hua began practicing under the guidance of Yu Yulian. Each movement was starting to look quite impressive. She was secretly pleased with her learning ability. Suddenly, she tripped over her own feet and stumbled, about to fall. Yu Yulian instantly caught her by the shoulders. Are you all right? He asked with concern. You can't be careless when practicing. His gentle, worried tone made Li Hua feel both embarrassed and warmed. Yu Yulian affectionately stroked her hair, but accidentally touched Heya, Li Hua's snake familiar. Heya hissed, his voice filled with anger and displeasure, as if ready to lash out. Only when Yu Yulian scolded him for hurting Li Hua did the boy realize his mistake. Seeing the pained expression on his mistress's face, guilt instantly flooded his chest. This wasn't the first time he'd hurt Li Hua. The thought brought tears to the little snake demon's eyes. Li Hua hadn't blamed him, but Heya, ashamed, fled after apologizing. Li Hua didn't understand why Yu Yulian was so harsh with Heya, who was just a child. Then it struck her. Yu Yulian was also only 12 years old. She'd often forgotten his age because of his mature demeanor. He simply carried himself with such an air of maturity that she often overlooked how young he truly was. Blushing, Yu Yulian reminded Li Hua, "Didn't you agree to pat my head? Why haven't you done it yet? So you were serious?" Of course, I always keep my word, he said, prompting her to fulfill her promise. Li Hua obliged, lowering his head so she could reach. She gently ruffled his hair, her eyes full of warmth. For a moment, Yu Yulian felt his heart clench. A fluttering sensation, a pull towards something unknown and profound, washed over him. The 1,000-year-old snake demon felt a stirring of something unfamiliar. Yu Yulian caught the subtle shift in her expression. He hadn't been away from Li Hua's side for more than a second, yet that brat had already taken the opportunity to act cute and innocent. Coupled with the provocative look in Heya's eyes, a daring thought crossed Yu Yulian's mind. Was that little demon actually vying for Li Hua's affection? Meanwhile, Heya was alone in the quiet night. Conscience-stricken, he'd run away after hurting his mistress, only to discover that his chosen hiding spot was the roof of Li Hua's room. He truly had nowhere to go but to her side. The thought of being abandoned filled Heya with a deep sorrow. His mistress had always taken such good care of him, yet he only caused her pain. Perhaps she preferred that human to a useless python like him. The image of Li Hua and Yu Yulian together, of himself abandoned and forgotten, of his mistress never again stroking his head, combined with the memory of Yu Yulian's mocking, scornful expression, was a knife twisting in his heart. He tried to reassure himself that his mistress loved him. Then his stomach growled. The sound highlighted his current predicament. Thankfully, Li Hua had given him dried persimmons for emergencies. He hadn't understood why she'd given them to him. Why carry food around when she always fed him whenever he was hungry? Now he understood her foresight. Had she been preparing to abandon him all along? Humans were all liars. He might as well just go back to his cave. But he didn't expect a burning heat to suddenly bloom around his neck. Heya, restrained by an unseen force, heard, "My pet." The constricting sensation, like that of a python, felt strange. In his ear, he heard, "Do you really want to leave? To be rid of me forever? Or do you want to possess me? To be with me always?" Yes, Heya thought. I want to become like that human. I also want a place by master's side. I will be the one to protect my master. He wouldn't allow anyone else near. He was the strongest law serpent demon in history, yet he was tormented by Yen Ling's curse. As long as he left his master, he would be bound. But under the girl's care, Heya unexpectedly felt a stirring in his heart. He reached his molting period prematurely and grew instantly. When Li Hua woke the next day, she found Heya, who hadn't returned the night before, back in her room. "What a stubborn little rascal," she sighed, patting him and calling for him to wake up. But the little snake demon didn't budge. He burrowed deeper under the covers. Li Hua resorted to threats. "If you don't get up, no persimmon cakes and no head pats." Heya, blushing, emerged from the blankets, muttering, I know. But the next second, he dove back under the covers, begging his master to leave so he could get up. Li Hua, fearing he was injured, immediately pulled back the covers to examine him. Despite Heya's frantic attempts to stop her, she succeeded. Anxious, he stammered, I've grown up. Do I look scary? What? No, you look amazing. Really? You like how I look now? Reassured by his master's affirmation, he finally relaxed. He had tried to return to his previous form, but he couldn't. He was relieved his master didn't dislike his new appearance. Otherwise, he had resolved to remain in his original serpent form at her side. But Li Hua earnestly told him, just be yourself. You don't need to change your appearance for me. Master is always so kind to me, he thought gratefully. Li Hua quickly covered his exposed abdomen. She didn't have any clothes that would fit him. I suppose I'll have to borrow something from you, she mused, prompting a vehement protest from Heya. I'm not wearing that guy's clothes. But you can't go around naked, she pointed out. Just then, Shu Ling, alerted by the commotion, opened the door. She stared, dumbfounded at the two of them. That little brat has grown up. That's right. Got a problem with it. Heya retorted. Li Hua chuckled at their childish bickering, unaware that elsewhere, the Martial Alliance leader had received news. Regarding the investigation team incident, the demonic sect demanded an explanation from the Martial Alliance. Although the victims were members of the investigation team, it was the Shaolin who attacked. It looked very much like a conspiracy by the Martial Alliance against the demonic sect. The innocent little snake demon had transformed into a breathtakingly beautiful young man. His striking appearance stunned everyone. Even knowing he was just a cocky little brat, Shu Ling couldn't help but be captivated by his beauty. Li Hua had to snap her out of it. Is something the matter? Shu Ling then remembered Zhuge Xian. Li Hua Baozha, the witness to the investigation team incident, was finally ready to testify. They immediately set off for Du Wang's residence. As the key witness, he might become a target for whoever was behind the incident. Li Hua was worried about how to protect Zhuge Xian. Looking at Heya, an idea struck her. As a 1,000-year-old spirit, no one would be more suited for the task. Heya, she said, stay in this palace for the time being. But the young man, Heya, misunderstood her meaning. His eyes instantly welled up as he looked at the girl, Li Hua. Is it because I've suddenly grown up that you want to send me away? Li Hua quickly explained, it's just that you're needed to protect Zhuge Xian for a while. Even so, Heya still didn't understand her reasoning. He could complete that task while staying by her side. But the girl continued, putting forth a new request. She wanted the little snake demon to stay under Zhuge Xian's protection and stressed the importance of this task. Can you do it? Faced with his master's earnest plea, Heya readily agreed. Once they reached an agreement, they entered the Jianyu chamber. Upon seeing Zhuge Xian, Heya brought up the incident that had occurred the other day, though the young man wished he could forget it. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. He remembered Master Xian Jin's actions. With perfect clarity, Li Hua interrupted his recollection, seriously stating that the whole affair was too strange. So many people had lost their lives, and they themselves had nearly perished. She then produced the book filled with cryptic writing. She hoped Zhuge Xian could decipher its meaning. The young man flipped through the book and declared that the coded message wasn't particularly complex, just partially erased. Given some time, he should be able to decode it quickly. The girl knew she had made the right choice by giving him the book. With the coded message seemingly solved, the matter of the incitement incident needed to be discussed with the young man in advance. Li Hua voiced her suspicions. We believe the martial arts alliance is intentionally causing this incident to frame the demonic sect. Although we've officially condemned them, the martial arts alliance will undoubtedly clamor for evidence. So, young Master Zhuge, can you testify for us? Seeing the young man's hesitant expression, she highlighted his current predicament. You being alive isn't necessarily good news for the martial arts alliance. Eliminating you would be far more advantageous for them. So what will your choice be? Zhuge Xian, having cultivated for 1,000 years, aimed his fangs at a human's throat. The strongest, blue-haired snake demon of the martial world had finally fallen in love. A smile played on his lips, as if deliberately trying to make the male lead jealous. At this moment, Yu Yulian understood that a child is still a child. Even with a grown-up appearance, his heart remained as innocent as a child's. After Li Hua pointed out that the martial arts alliance wasn't as righteous and selfless as they appeared, Zhuge Xian angrily denied her conjecture. However, the fact that the investigation team members self-detonated was undeniable. Naturally, to sway the young man to the demonic sect side, the girl offered to help him obtain what he desired. Whether it was the position of future head of the Zhuge family or the secret martial arts manuals from the demonic sect's library, no one understood the precarious situation of his family better than Zhuge Xian, especially with his younger brother lurking in the shadows. Finally, under Li Hua's coercion and enticement, Zhuge Xian readily accepted Heiya and began his guardianship duties. However, the thought of his master and the male lead dancing together while he was alone here displeased him. That guy must be so smug. He was determined to gain more of his master's attention than Yu Yulian. Just then, a faint, almost imperceptible presence emanated from the shadows. Feiya, after trapping them with an illusion, appeared beside Yu Yulian. The male lead happened to be demonstrating his swordsmanship to Li Hua. His graceful and dashing movements made the girl lament her own clumsiness. As expected, her past self wasn't good at dancing, and her current self was equally unskilled. But his birthday was just a few days away, and he had been looking forward to dancing that day to express his gratitude to his father. Now, it seemed not embarrassing himself would be a feat in itself. The male lead, unable to bear his dejection. You're not that bad, really, Li Hua consoled Zhuge Xian. Take a closer look, it's not bad at all. Oh my, Heiya, the small black dragon, immediately piped up, praising Li Hua's martial arts skills. Master's movements are superb, absolutely magnificent, he gushed, despite the fact her movements were stiff and her expression unnatural. Master's dancing is the best in the world. Heiya continued his effusive praise. Indeed, Li Hua was also noticing that the little imp had grown larger. Seeing this, Heiya immediately began to boast. Master loves how much I've grown. Really? Have I ever said such a thing? Li Hua asked, her words laced with disbelief, causing Heiya to bristle. No matter how Heiya tried to explain, Li Hua knew that his growth was likely due to something other than her influence. After all, for a spirit beast like Heiya, their master was a crucial factor in their development. Li Hua observed the boy's behavior. He's still an immature child inside, she thought. Just a bigger body, not a bigger brain. What's there to brag about? Heiya, fuming, practically vibrated with rage. He wanted nothing more than to swat Zhuge Xian. Li Hua watched their childish antics with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. She couldn't understand why they couldn't get along. Are they destined rivals or something? She wondered. The assassins Li Hua had been expecting finally appeared, but Heiya was too preoccupied with his rivalry with Zhuge Xian. He paid little attention to Li Hua's attempts to comfort Zhuge Xian. However, he still retained a sense of responsibility towards the task she gave him. He informed Li Hua that he had detected hidden assassins. He knew that Zhuge Xian's presence would make the situation more precarious. He hadn't expected the assassination attempt to be so brazen. "I'll go see if these people are from the Martial Arts Alliance," he declared. Yu Yulian, confined to her room, was unaware of the events unfolding outside. Li Hua filled her in while simultaneously instructing Heiya to transform. She explained the situation as Heiya, now in his giant serpent form, prepared to carry them to Zhuge Xian. The little snake demon, however, seemed unconcerned. "I've trapped them with an illusion," he announced. "So now, the most important thing is for Master to reward me." Just as Li Hua considered rewarding him with an 8-ton persimmon cake, Heiya vehemently refused. "This time, the reward must be head pats," he declared, glancing provocatively at Yu Yulian. Li Hua sighed. He's still a child, she thought, indulging him by running her fingers through his cloud-like hair. Heiya, thoroughly satisfied, transformed into his giant python form. Once Li Hua had settled herself, the girl and the serpent looked expectantly at Zhuge Xian. Yu Yulian had no choice but to join them. "This doesn't count as leaving without permission, does it?" she muttered to herself. Meanwhile, the three fools were still wandering the stairs. "Such a simple task," Lan Mao complained. "We didn't need to wait until dark. Now we're missing out on drinking. I heard that ever since the heavenly demon had a daughter, he's become lax with his sex management," another said. "Looks like the rumors are true." But their companion cautioned them. "This is still the heavenly demon's headquarters. We should be careful. Having a child should make him even more vigilant," he continued. "Though, I doubt the heavenly demon is the doting father type. Does he think he's invincible now?" Lan Mao said. Their leaders stopped their idle chatter. "But I'm bored," Lan Mao whined. "And why haven't we reached the top of these stairs yet?" The others froze, looking up sharply. "Such a short flight of stairs shouldn't take this long." "It's an illusion," one exclaimed. "Someone's cast an illusion on the stairs." A creepy voice echoed. "Uncles, my leg is gone. Can you help me find it? Or maybe I can take yours."